Wu Song, why would you be together with Su Xing? Leisure Star Gong Sun Huang blinked. Her obvious age seemed to very small, but she had a sort of exceedingly refined temperament, which made people feel great reverence for, where no one dared have contempt for her. Even Wu Xiao felt she herself was seemingly younger confronting her. Su Xing. You are very familiar with him? Wu Xiao's eyelids jumped, hearing from Gong Sun Huang's words hidden information. Gong Sun Huang did not speak, her expression fully directed at Wu Xiao's confusion. Your servant and he have some business that must be settled. Wu Xiao calmly replied. Gong Sun Huang nodded, neither delighted nor upset. Suddenly, the girl's brow wrinkled, and she nearly collapsed onto the floor. Gong Sun Huang, you certainly were not careful this time. Wu Xiao shook her head. She could discern that although Su Xing's power restricted Gong Sun Huang's goo poison, this was only stalling. If things went on as they were, Gong Sun Huang's star energy was almost completely devoured, and to recover would require a long time. In other words, in the evil smiting hall, Gong Sun Huang could be counted as changing direction towards withdrawing from the star duels. You truly are fortunate the one you encountered was Su Xing. Wu Xiao narrowed her eyes, spitting out a shocking sentence. Are you thinking of signing a contract with him like this? Gong Sun Huang seemingly pondered a moment, then shook her head. Wu Xiao apathetically said, Is it that you do not wish to sign a contract with him, or that you fear he will not sign a contract with you? Gong Sun Huang blinked but did not answer. Seeing her so indifferent, Wu Xiao no longer wanted to say anything more. She flipped out a map. On it were more or less some of the locations for the materials she needed to upgrade her star weapon. Among them, many could be found in the Vermilion Bird territory. Harm Star Wu Song understood she had already lost Lin Chong in these star duels and that she could only rely on herself now. The sole advantage of acting as a star general that did not sign contracts lay precisely in upgrading star weapons. Fortunately, refusing to sign a contract, she had abundant time to go ponder this matter. Lining, even if you have signed a contract, your servant shall fulfill our promise. Wu Xiao muttered to herself. Gong Sun Huang sat on a square desk to the side, curiously looking Wu Xiao up and down, brimming with an expression that could not fathom the harmed star pilgrim. Several knocks from the door interrupted Wu Xiao's contemplation. Who? Excuse us, is young Lord Su Xing there? Your servant comes on behalf of Holy Mother Qixia. 2. The crisp sound of a woman's voice came from outside the door. Holy Mother Qixia. Wu Xiao heard Su Xing mention before that the one commanding the region around Mount Danxia was Holy Mother Qixia. However, it was very odd that this old woman would seek out Su Xing to do something. Could it be this man fooled around with yet another woman? With a vague sense of unhappiness in her heart, she raised her hand, and the door opened on its own. 2 maidens in palace dresses of 7 colors with hair like rainbows appeared. What is your business? Wu Xiao did not rise at all, nor did she have the slightest appearance of etiquette. The 2 palace girls were stunned upon seeing Wu Xiao's cold and elegant manner. Seeing that Wu Xiao was unexpectedly galaxy late stage, the girl with a flower ring inserted into her hair deferentially bowed and said, May we ask what sort of person your majesty is to young Lord Su Xing? Wu Xiao was silent. Seeing that Wu Xiao did not reply, the 2 women felt this was odd. A long time afterwards, Wu Xiao replied without changing her expression, Your servant is his wife. His matters can be spoken to your servant. The Gong Sun Huang inside the room blinked and slightly opened her mouth. The 2 women had already known and smiled. Young Lord Su Xing is very lucky with women to have such a beautiful and stunning wife. Is young Lord Su Xing not present? Why do you seek him? Wu Xiao was somewhat impatient. One girl passed over an invitation card. Holy Mother Qixia has arranged for a feast tomorrow night, and she invites young Lord Su Xing and the madam to go attend. What relationship does he have with you? We have only come for but a few days. Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow. It seems young Lord Su Xing has not informed madam. One of the girls smiled. Young Lord Su Xing used 1 billion of pure gold to claim several goods. The Holy Mother has some things to mutually request. 1 billion gold? Wu Xiao grunted. Seeing the 2 girls had yet to leave, Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow. Is there something else? The women somewhat embarrassingly placed a porcelain bottle on the table. We hear Madam has a deficiency from intercourse. This bottle of Fine Ladies Meridian Supplement Pills, 3, is something Madam Holy Mother personally sent over to demonstrate sincerity so that Madam can restore her health. The two girls vaguely said. Deficiency from intercourse. By the time Wu Xiao's shock passed and she came back to her sensed, the other party had already left. Does this man believe your servant does not dare kill him? Wu Xiao's silvery teeth tightly bit together. Unexpectedly, even deficiency from sex had emerged. The Gong Sun Huan to the side was seemingly expressionless, but her eyes had a slightly different meaning. Crying star twin-tailed scorpion Xie Chan's thin golden needles flew, like a drizzle of ox hair, disappearing into the air and reappearing. In an instant, a golden light abruptly tore over. Let alone that Xie Chan was a small girl, her body techniques were very unusual, dodging away in the blink of an eye. Cultivator, what are you doing interrupting me? Xie Chan puffed up her cheeks very unhappily. Many thanks to young lord for saving me, the panicking and doubting girl said in gratitude. He saw she wore a short corset, and golden light suddenly glinted through it. Her expression was weak, and her forehead had turned purple. Astonishingly, she had been poisoned. Su Xing did not take notice of her. Immediately he launched an attack against Xie Chan, seizing this chance to take this twin-tailed scorpion's goo poison cure for Gong Sun Huang in a burst of energy. 12 heaven-tearing swords promptly attacked. A dragon's cry boomed, chomping at the bit. The twin-tailed scorpion Xie Chan did not expect this cultivator would surprisingly fight without uttering a word. Seeing that imposing and fierce flying sword, her face turned white. Xie Chan spread her arms, and her life-cast star weapon golden scorpion fine ray needles linked together, becoming a scorpion. Ordinary artifacts simply were incapable of stopping the heaven-tearing sword's devastation, but the twin-tailed scorpion Xie Chan's destined star weapon was unknown grades higher than 9th stage. The fine needles flashed 3 stars, so it was surprisingly a 3-star star weapon. These thin needles became a rain that was like a downpour, all of which blocked the heaven-tearing's attack. Su Xing had long foreseen this, and his hand clenched the 1,000-year contract divine sword intertwined branch to immediately attack. Xie Chan was a poison expert, so she was practically incompetent in close quarters. How could she ever let Su Xing approach? Her right hand gestured, and 5 poison lights launched from her 5 fingers. Her left hand also did not hesitate, grasping the golden scorpion fine ray needles in preparation to fully use her yellow rank poison technique. Suddenly, she saw that man's hand shoot a purple dragon claw. Xie Chan's protective star tool immediately opened a barrier to obstruct this purple dragon claw. Su Xing closed his fist, raising the sky-breaking spear. The sky-breaking spear slammed against Xie Chan's barrier with a boom. This star weapon was specialized in breaking defensive magic weapons. Xie Chan tapped with her hand, and a sheet of golden scorpion fine ray needles pierced through the sky-breaking spear towards him. The golden needles carried golden poison, and Su Xing clearly sensed she was corroding his artifact. Su Xing remained expressionless. The 12 heaven tearings combined and immediately slashed. The star tool immediately shattered. Xie Chan's reactions could not compare to Su Xing's, and neither was she capable of martial force. This succession of close attacks by Su Xing already was the limit of what Xie Chan could defend against. Xie Chan originally used poison to handle generals in close quarters with great certainty, but she did not anticipate Su Xing's attacks to be this fierce. When Su Xing rushed to her front, Xie Chan screamed, "Elder sister, Mother Highness," a ripping sound. The 1,000-year contract brushed past Xie Chan's arms. Blood splattered, but Su Xing did not relent. His left hand formed a seal, and the 12 flying swords turned into a winding dragon. The golden light was colorful, tearing open the poison items and poison smoke. Xie Chan looked at Su Xing with her eyes wide, as if she wanted to firmly remember Su Xing. Her figure very quickly was executed by the flying swords. In an instant, Xie Chan disappeared before his eyes without a star fall. Evidently, she had entered the star nest. Su Xing's set of attacks could even be said to have gathered the essence of fighting with the whole body, swift to the limit. This was Five Poisons Valley, the twin-tailed scorpion's domain. How could Su Xing dare be careless about anything? Acting on the spot was to be die in one move. However, even if it was like this, he had still allowed Xiechan to damage the sky-breaking spear. The twin-tailed scorpion's might could be seen. The girl to the side was dumbstruck. That series of attacks just now practically passed in the blink of an eye, and she completely had not returned to her senses. Su Xing stored Xiechan's blood away. The girl still wanted to be grateful. Su Xing pulled her hand. Seemingly as if he had seen a ghost, he left only one word: flee. Did he not kill Xiebao? The girl was extremely confused. Suddenly, she heard the Jade Alum Palace explode. Turning her head, her face immediately changed. They saw a man draped in a large red cape flap his two wings, rushing over. Not good. The Rock Demon King. In this instant, she finally could be considered as knowing why Su Xing was this nervous. With Xiebao destroyed, clearly, this would rile Lady Snake Scorpion, and now her lord husband had come to take revenge. A loud boom. A ring suddenly was located above the pair's heads. Light fell like a downpour from the ring, and that ink-like fog swiftly stirred to trap the two. A magic circle. The girl who had just obtained hope again despaired. A tiny renegade dares to come behave atrociously before this king. The Rock Demon King's cold laugh was audible from several 10,000 li away. At this time, the girl was thoroughly in despair. A super void cultivator had set out, so death was inevitable. Su Xing was too late to use the golden swords to break the array. He directly threw a territory-breaking talisman to break this magic weapon script, and the two immediately ran out. Quickly halt, and this king shall spare you from death. The Rock Demon King sneered, seemingly even closer. Great Sage Falling Sky is of the Rock Clan, we cannot outrun him. The girl shouted. The Rock Clan was the highest peak among the Vermilion Bird Territory's high-speed clans. Their speed was innate, and a pair of large rock golden wings could take them flying 10,000 li with a single flap. The escape techniques of star cultivators all could only gaze upon his back, and to use even a super void cultivation to handle a Rock Clan Demon King's chase to kill was simply like coming to Mount Five Finger, next to impossible to escape. Su Xing also understood this. From the Jade Alum Palace to here was a minimum of 70 to 80,000 li, however, in the blink of an eye, that voice was increasingly near, even arriving before them. What kind of speed was this? Their escape was simply indistinguishable from a snail. Behind them, a man draped in a red cape with wings several meters wide on his back appeared. A powerful pressure pushed enough to make the sky and earth heavy. Along the roads, maids, demi-soldiers and demi-kings all knelt. Su Xing tightly clenched the jade amulet, gritting his teeth. Suddenly, he took up a flying sword and stabbed at his own stomach. Immediately, he was drenched in blood. What are you doing? The girl was alarmed. How could Su Xing have time to explain? The next second, the Rock Demon King arrived in front of them, as if a god had descended. You wish to run in front of this king? The Rock Demon King was godlike, his pressure squeezing from above, and his hands scratched towards them. Go! Su Xing's divine intent moved. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. The Rock Demon King was taken aback. He turned his head, and he saw that his quarry had suddenly escaped out close to 10,000 li. That speed was no inferior to his giant rock spreads its wings and flies. 5. What sort of escape technique was this strange? An amateur dares act before an expert. The Rock Demon King was furious, flapping his wings as he gave chase. Here, this is for you. Tang Lianxin opened her palm. There were several glittering golden earrings. These golden earrings were forged using the leftover dragon scales from the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The earrings appeared with the marks of dragon scales, their rays of light resplendent. And Suwen picked one up in pleasant surprise. Little sister is so amazing. This astral tool was refined entirely by little sister? Tang Lianxin affirmed, without any expression on her face. This astral tool can protect you once, so it does not have too great a use. She shook her head. Her manners still maintained a sort of antisocial feeling. Ever since Su Xing and Wu Xiao left for the Vermilion Bird territory, Tang Lianxin did not visit the immortal's abode often at all. However, Wu Xinjie nevertheless pestered her, discussing refining with her as she brought out a few materials to have Tang Lianxin forge self-protection astral tools. They never expected Tang Lianxin to actually put in the extra effort, for the 5 astral tool earrings were all exceptional. Has elder sister Lianxin not thought of signing a contract together with Su Xing? Shi Yuan and the others walked over. Seeing this earring, she handled it admiringly. They were always low on astral tools and astral treasures, and having plundered that many chests, only Lin Yingmei had been given an astral tool bodice. The thief star was thinking that if they recruited this astral tool refining solitary star, then Su Xing truly would be like a tiger that had grown wings. The other who had the same thinking was Wu Xinjie. The knowledge star actually was not worried, though. Since the solitary star had even called Su Xing big brother anyways, signing a contract was something that would occur sooner or later. Taking advantage of this to persist with a few more words in her ear would be even more assured. Tang Lianxin, there is a matter your servant wanted to ask you about. Ling Yingmei looked at the earring and was not impatient to wear it. Rather, she asked a question. What matter? Tang Lianxin's eyes were somewhat curious. Lin Yingmei was previously always taciturn, very seldom would she question people. Since you are capable of refining flying swords, then you should be clear on materials. Lin Yingmei stared at Tang Lianxin. The majestic star's words made Wu Xinjie and the others have a sudden epiphany. True. What materials? Wu Xinjie then listed each and every one of the materials to refine Su Xing's heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword for her to listen. The materials to refine the 5 elements sword were completely abnormal, and some were already extinct without any hint of a trace left. However, seeing the solitary star gold coin spotted leopard was a forging expert, it could be said for certain she could have some information. You let big brother Su Xing forge a flying sword so defiant of the natural order? Tang Lianxin's brows tightly wrinkled. She was astonished and confused. It was unknown how much time it would take to forge this sort of flying sword. This was simply a waste of time. Did you not forge the golden star sword? Too? Wu Xinjie smiled. Tang Lianxin also thought so. She carefully pondered, then replied, some of this I am not too clear on, but the Heavenly Gem Valley reportedly has the wood element swords suppressing evil gem bamboo, and the extreme ice holy palace has the water elements 10,000-year dark ice. 3. Only the Black Turtle Territory's Black Turtle Sea can produce the Zhen Wu Divine Iron. 5. Of the earth element sword. The fire element sword's heaven-clinging scissor plumage, 6, is already depleted. Perhaps it can be found in the White Tiger territory. As far as the solar, lunar, astral, and draconic swords, only during prehistoric eras did they appear. Although they had already prepared their hearts, hearing Tang Lianxin's words, they still could not help but be somewhat disappointed. It seemed that for the other 8 element swords to appear, it would not be easy. Elder sister Yan Yixin has disappeared. Suddenly, Su Wen shouted in astonishment. Everyone returned to their senses and discovered the maid was not in the Void Immortal's abode at all. It seems she has gone to find young Lord. Wu Xinjie smiled. Yan Yixin was loyal and devoted, and compared to the young master's consolation, she completely did not care for Wu Xiao's bet. Then what shall we do? No need. If we go, we might contrarily implicate young Lord. Wu Xinjie shook her head. But are we just going to idly wait like this? Overall, this young lady feels she has lost to little E. Shi Yuan was not reconciled to stand by. Lin Yingmei twitched her lips, seemingly frustrated a bit as well. Listen to elder sister's words. We are not to bring young Lord trouble, but Xinjie has an even better idea. Wu Xinjie smiled. Sister Xinjie, what idea do you have? Since we have dragon-scale astral tools, let us go help Yingmei find the materials to advance her star weapon? Wu Xinjie said earnestly. Yingmei's star weapon has already fallen behind Wu Xiao's. Good. Your servant wonders how young master is faring? Lin Yingmei twisted her brow. 7. Be at ease. Let alone Wu Xiao is so resolute, Xinjie dares to make a guarantee. Should young lord truly fall into a crisis, she will not hesitate to intervene. Wu Xinjie's completely self-confident appearance made everyone somewhat unconvinced. Why does Sister Xinjie say this? She seems almost like she is very hateful of Big Brother for snatching elder sistering. And Suwen said, could it be that she fears anything that befalls young lord could spread to elder sistering? That is a mystery known only to heaven, and it absolutely will not be leaked. The knowledge star winked and mysteriously smiled. Thus, at this time, Su Xing was overwhelmed with shock. To execute his chaotic tail escape, he needed to first be heavily wounded before he could float away, but this instant of floating took him several thousand li away in a moment's breath. To Su Xing's knowledge, he did not know of an escape technique in the Azure Dragon territory that could be faster than the chaotic tail escape. The chaotic tail escape used self-harm as a precondition, and whenever it reached the highest level of the 49th layer, using it would be very shocking. Su Xing already had the chaotic tail escape refined to the 48th layer, and with this one breath, he could flee 1,000 li. How could he have anticipated that the Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies would be actually so abnormal to the extreme? Reportedly, it was practiced to the peak, and a flap was 100,000 li. Fortunately, this Rock Demon King was not at the apex, but a light flap of his wings took him more than 5,000 li. Even more fortunate was that the flap required several breaths' time, otherwise, Su Xing's chaotic tail escape could not outrun him. This sort of speed perhaps would render using the Purple Star Jade Amulet too late. The Rock Demon King's cold laugh seemingly could be felt across 1,000 li, and the pressure never left Su Xing's body. His silhouette was extremely swift and on the move. Su Xing flew a distance of 3,000 li in the time of several blinks, and the result was that he still was being closely clung onto by the Rock Demon King. It seemed that wherever he flew, those golden wings would appear there. Such a frightening escape technique, Su Xing had never seen this before. Even if it was those super void cultivators of the Azure Dragon territory, this sort of speed was difficult to outrun. With 10 of Su Xing's breaths he already had flown out of Falling Dragon Mountain. The demi-kings and demi-soldiers of Falling Dragon Mountain had already been shaken off light years away, but he was unable to break away from this Rock Demon King's pursuit, and the cold laughter behind him was increasingly swift and fierce. The Azure Dragon territory's cultivators unexpectedly having such a superb escape technique had made the Rock Demon King feel disbelief. Let alone star cultivators, he had never before had a worthy rival in high speed within the Vermilion Bird territory. Seeing a galaxy early-stage cultivator unexpectedly capable of being so defiant of the natural order, the Rock Demon King's killing intent wildly bubbled forth. If he could not clearly figure out what was going on, how could the Rock Demon King be at ease? The Rock Demon King shook the wings on his back, and the two wings transformed, becoming an immense sky-concealing object. Wherever it passed, shadows covered, and these shadows were even faster than the Rock Demon King. In the blink of an eye, the shadow fell beneath Su Xing's legs. Su Xing was aghast, sensitively perceiving he seemingly had been slowed. This shadow was capable of trapping him. Gritting his teeth, he cut himself several times again, and his escape technique was even faster. The Rock Demon King had already fixated on the idea of killing Su Xing, and he also fully used his power. As far as he was concerned, this was rarely seen. It is the giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. The girl screamed in terror. This Rock Demon King was genuinely angered. The so-called giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li was not at all an actual 90,000 li in one flap. Rather, it was an enemy-killing move used mid-flight. Those shadows were the Rock Demon King's immense divine intent. This divine intent was similar to a cage, following behind Su Xing and engulfing everything. If Su Xing were to stop for a moment, then he would roll into this shadow. Once he had been captured by the divine intent, no matter how much faster he would be in the palm of the Rock Demon King's hand. It seemed the heavens had been seized, and for this reason was he called by others Great Sage Falling Sky. Hurry and think of a way to escape. Su Xing said as he fled, his face profusely sweating. Even with my speed, I can't break away from this rock demon king no matter what I do. Su Xing applied all the star energy in his body to his escape, and it still was of no use. The rock demon king's divine intent and cold laughter always followed close as a shadow. Su Xing used the chaotic tail escape nearly to the point he wished he was dead. That rock demon king still pursued relentlessly, unwilling to let go. This, the girl had no words to say. Su Xing did not have hopes that she would have any solutions. The opponent was a super void-grade cultivator. This type of cultivator had the entire world at his disposal, far from comparison to a supercluster stage. Unless his star energy was stronger by tenfold, perhaps only then Su Xing could engage in battle. His mind pondered over countermeasures when he suddenly heard the sound of crashing tides below. If this goes on, I can only fly out of the Vermilion Bird territory to think of a solution. I wish the Azure Dragon territory won't let him be unbridled. Su Xing bit his teeth. The rock demon king behind him was closer and closer. Those low sneers seemingly were right beside his ear, throwing his state of mind into confusion. Fortunately, Su Xing had practiced the absolute sincerity soul technique. His will was seemingly bathed, without the slightest bit of being destabilized. Otherwise, if he were to slow a bit, he would be seized by the rock demon king's divine intent. How could this king be at ease without taking you? Do you believe that you can live in harmony if you can flee to the Azure Dragon territory? Should this king's powers be put to use at full strength, even that Emperor Liang could not protect you if he were to come? The rock demon king laughed aloud, the sound seemingly right behind his ear, making Su Xing's entire body turn cold. Su Xing was not resigned to his fate. If he really were unable to go any further, with a shake of the miraculous Bodhi tree, he could then seize the chance to use the purple star jade pendant. It was just that with this, he actually would escape back to the Void Immortal's abode. Honestly, he would not have the face to see Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie and the others. Until the very final moment, Su Xing did not wish to concede defeat. And at this time, the lightning flash-like pursuit between the two shook the entire Vermilion Bird territory. Su Xing was too fast, where basically no one could see him clearly, but that rock demon king was not the same. His wings extended, his divine intent extended, and wherever they passed, it was like Mount Tai had rolled past. Fortunately, it was fleeting, otherwise, a moment longer, and he would inevitably fall to the stage of tragic death. In an instant, everyone was discussing the matter of the rock demon king. Just now, that had to be Great Sage Falling Sky Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. Who could be this powerful, unexpectedly forcing Great Sage Falling Sky to use this ability? Could it be a cultivator from the Azure Dragon territory? All the whispers flashed past, boiling over 1,000 mountaintops. You monster, we are star masters yet you dare chase to kill. Do you not fear the Liangshan maiden will find trouble with you? The girl on his chest let loose words of scolding. Su Xing could not help but wonder whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. At this moment, holding out hope for that faintly discernible maiden mountain really was too naive. Let this king see to what time you can persevere. The rock demon king laughed aloud, seemingly sensing Su Xing's weakness. Su Xing sighed. It seemed he could only go for broke. Unless it was the purple star jade pendant, the sole solution Su Xing could think of was to thoroughly self-mutilate himself. The higher the degree of injury for the chaotic tail escape, the faster the escape technique was. Although he was somewhat unreconciled, he could not be unreconciled after encountering the one who was but the overlord of a part of the Vermilion Bird territory. Just at the time Su Xing prepared to use it, suddenly, he heard an air-breaking sound boom over. Staring, it was unexpectedly a god-killing arrow, imposing as a dragon. I translate the name as Vermilion Bird from the start, and I shall continue to do the same with the Black Turtle territory. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. Right arrow curving left 7. Lin Yingmei would rather be with Su Xing than search for materials. Right arrow curving left 8. The girl is indeed a star master, I can confirm that much. Right arrow curving left 9. Here she comes again. This arrow's extremely fast emergence had a calculated route, simply not giving Su Xing time to react. The 1,000 li in a flash chase between the two also simply did not anticipate anyone could launch an arrow this quickly. Furthermore, to be able to be aimed at them, this sort of accurate attack was universally shocking. Fortunately, the arrow was not at all aimed to kill Su Xing. It brushed past him, but the arrow's tip still scraped somewhat of a cut against Su Xing's face. The rock demon king behind him was then misfortunate. An arrow first directly ripped his expanded divine intent to shreds, and then it directly shot towards him. Luckily, his divine intent obstructed the majority of the power while the remainder still pierced through the rock demon king. The rock demon king yelled loudly, only feeling this arrow that penetrated his body wanted to churn his organs to pieces, to shatter his soul. Only by relying on the Rock clan's valiant constitution did he manage to stop it. There was an immense roar in the sky. By the time the Rock Demon King looked again, Su Xing had already become a black dot disappearing into the horizon, already unchaseable. Damned Star General! The Rock Demon King yanked out this arrow, and the arrow became light particles. Astonishingly, it was made of star energy. However, he had most probably discerned that escaping person should be the traveler. The person able to leave his giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. Unable to capture was of galaxy early stage, and perhaps only with the speed star magic traveler of the star generals could this be done. Otherwise, the other star generals could not possibly intervene. Thinking of this, the Rock Demon King's heart was slightly better, but the pain of his wounds made his fury ignite. Damned Star General! He cursed again and helplessly flew back home. Su Xing fell onto the mountaintop that fired the arrow. With this speed, the star energy he consumed could not be counted. Another instant more, and he was too late to replenish it. Like this, by the time Su Xing completely was free of danger did he discover he seemingly had already reached the stage of being completely shriveled up. Even a finger was unwilling to move. Don't you wait, The beauty shrieked, her whole body dyed with Su Xing's blood. Your turn now. Su Xing lay down before a tree, speaking powerlessly. Mine? The beauty did not understand. If you don't save me, I really am going to die. Su Xing closed his eyes. The reason he had saved this girl in passing was for this time. The chaotic tail escape injured Su Xing into a mass of cuts and bruises. Even in the end times of bitter struggles he had previously, he never had been injured like this. This chaotic tail escape that harming others without self-benefit sure enough was malicious. Oh, the beauty nodded. Flustered, she found a pill bottle, but in the end she found that there surprisingly were none. Su Xing actually had some, but he found he could not extend his divine intent, and thus, could not use his astral bag. Take this. A graceful voice floated over from a high place. Raising her head to look, she saw an extraordinarily soldierly woman had appeared at an unknown time on a high treetop. She wore a white pleated skirt. Her lapel, sleeves as well as her skirt had a black border. The lines were refined, and her physique was elegant in any posture. She wore a silver crystal tuinga, her silky hair dancing in the air. Seeing her look disdainfully at Su Xing and the girl, she then tossed a river jade porcelain bottle to Su Xing. The porcelain bottle brimmed with fragrance. Evidently, it was an extraordinary spirit pill. Ah, thank you, elder sister. The girl expressed her gratitude. Although this medicine could not bring the dead back to life nor cram full star energy, it was wonderfully effective on the Su Xing whose whole body was covered in injuries. Thank you to elder sister for the favor of saving his life. The girl bowed her head. I only could not bear to see that monster use his position to bully others, nothing more. The woman indifferently said. Apparently, this was a negligible matter. From her body, Su Xing could only sense a star energy even more profound than Wu Xiao's circulate. Watching her mannerisms and gestures, she was angered but dignified, with a flourishing heroism. Su Xing more or less guessed she should be a star general. Your servant is Chu Hiu of Mount Dansha. May your servant ask for elder sister's name, it is necessary that your servant cannot thank you enough. Chu He bowed. No need to trouble yourself over my name. I only want to know, why would you provoke that rock demon king? Why could you break away? I only wonder what escape technique you used? The woman looked at Su Xing, slowly asking. This escape technique can only make you laugh when said out loud. Chaotic tail escape. 3. Using self-harm, it can escape 1,000 li. I wonder if young lady has heard of it. Su Xing gasped. Chaotic tail escape? The woman nodded. She looked at Su Xing's whole body of injuries and was 70 to 80% convinced. Little sister Hua Rong completely is of refined mind. From a distant place suddenly came clear laughter. They saw a woman walked out. To Su Xing, who had seen so many beauties, her appearance could only count as ordinary, but her figure was fabulous. Her elegance was beautiful, her fine black hair like a waterfall. It was as if her shoulders had been carved, her waist perfectly balanced, and she wore a blue and white palace dress. Hua Rong. Su Xing heard her words and was somewhat surprised. Raising his head to look at that heroic woman, sure enough, she was a star general like he had imagined. The hero star Little Li Guang Hua Rong. 5. Chu, he shouted in shock, gazing with an expression of adoration at the woman. Su Xing was not surprised. From that universally shocking arrow just now, it had to be the 10,000 Li God-killing arrow. Presently, the people that could fire it were very few. Hua Rong was disgruntled. She squinted and her tone was ice cold. It truly is easy to draw you over. What do you want to do now? Your servant only wished to scale to the top of Maiden Mountain together with little sister. To this very small wish, is little sister unwilling to agree? That blue and white woman was all smiles. Do not raise that again. I will not sign a contract with anyone. For this time's Maiden Mountain, I will reach the summit by myself. The hero star's tone brimmed with self-confidence. The woman smiled. The previous generation's Wusong could reach the summit only because she had Lin Chong. One person alone has her limits. Little sister being self-confident is good, but conceit will also be abundant. You dare say that I am conceited? Hua Rong laughed. Her eyes shot cold light. I will not kill you, and that is only because I feel you are not worth killing. Elder sister Qingxi. 6. What are doing troubling her? Suddenly, an irritated voice sounded out. A beautiful figure emerged next to that Qingxi. The one who appeared was a woman of extremely high stature. She had a panel skirt, shorts, and a black armband. Her riding boots tread heavily. Her embroidered tube top was not covered with any outer garments, and she had black shoulder pads and gloves. Her fine, long black hair was bound with a gorgeous bandage inscribed with talisman script, which was even demonically beautiful to the extreme. Apart from this, she did not have too many accessories. Her attires could be considered bold, and she revealed a great expanse of skin that was not white, but a sort of tan. Compared to her master, the two could be said to have incomparably distinct forms. If Qingxi could be said to be like that expression that could only be drawn, nevertheless, that would be a slightly regretful beauty. Then this tall woman was just like a beautiful Azura trapped in a prison, covered in a murderous aura from head to foot. Those black pupils demonically fierce, forcing others to not dare gaze at them. Since she is unwilling to accompany elder sister, I shall beat her into submitting under elder sister's foot. The demonic woman was cold beyond compare. Longkue. 7. You must not be so lacking in manners. Qingxi smiled. Elder sister actually wants to play with little sister Longkue. Hua Wanyue hooked a disdainful smile. Her expression sunk, and an indescribable longbow formed in her hand. The bow was painted red, its bowstring gloomy. The bow's body flickered, indistinctly revealing the sun, moon, and stars. 3 magnificent stars were extremely dazzling. The heaven-earth-sun-moon bow. 8. As expected, she was the hero star Little Li Guang Hua Rong. 5. That Longkue woman spread her arms, and 2 clumps of darkness emerged. That gloom flickered, and from time to time, demonic dancing claws could be seen, as if an Azura was in the palm of her hand. Her weapon was shrouded within, and its shape was simply indistinguishable, but a forceful terror made Su Xing shiver. He was all right, But that Chu He had been scared pale in the face as she hid behind Su Xing. Longkui stepped and skyrocketed into the treetop. Shua shua shua. Huan Wanyue opened the bow extremely quickly, and 3 arrows followed suit. Those arrows also were not an ordinary weapons. The arrows were swift, their power fierce, and although the woman Longkui used her weapon to block, she still was pushed back by the arrow attack. Hua Wanyue drew the bow into a full moon, and starlight glittered once again. Longkui's body techniques dodged to the left once more, avoiding several arrows before she chopped towards the large tree. The boom! A tree that could be encircled by 7 or 8 people had been cleaved in 2 in the blink of an eye. Perhaps Lin Yingmei could not easily attain this sort of might. The gloomy weapon hacked it down, its murderous aura flaring up. It directly bit at Hua Wanyue, but the hero star stepped in midair, as if she had tread on a cloud. Her figure flew backwards, and the heaven-earth-sun-moon bow consecutively launched several arrows, breaking open this murderous air. Longkui's figure directly rose, just like a murderous god. That space had been ripped apart and seemingly pulled into a straight line. In practically a single breath, Longkui's attack quietly arrived beside the hero star Hua Wanyue without any indication, aiming at the hero star Little Li Guang's excellent arrow arts. The Azura-like Longkui was fully aware of its power. Her seemingly impulsive and uncivilized attack first of all made calculations that were more precise than a machine's. Hua Wanyue was very surprised Longkui was this swift. The hero star's eyes narrowed, and she opened her bow to fire arrows. Her speed was extremely quick, and looking far into the distance, more than a dozen arrow pillars were like gently falling scattered willow tufts. In an instant, they formed a soaring storm. Its formidable might covered the sky and hid the earth, conforming with the chaotic atmosphere. The arrow had not yet arrived, but its murderous air arrived first. Dance through the willows. A vicious and angry shout. The gloom on Longkui's hands combined into one. Black chi shot everywhere, soaring into the sky, her body following the movements of her palms. Black light flashed, and her entire person already was like an arrow, shot straight, just as if she had used her yellow rank style. One hit certain kill. The distance between the two seemingly ceased to exist. Longkui's gloom was brandished, and it slammed together with the falling willow tufts that filled the skies. Su Xing only saw the black chi almost seem to want to devour the willow tufts, but it was the hero star who was evidently a step ahead in the end. The hero star flew 100 chi upwards. The arrow's power concentrated, and the willow's flying dance successively broke this attacking prison. The mountain forest rumbled, the trees toppled, and the birds scattered in alarm. The hero star Little Li Guang abruptly pulled back on the bow and aimed at Longkui's master, Qingxi. The bow was drawn into a full moon, and the arrow seemingly whistled. Qingxi confidently did not move. A black shadow flung out and intercepted the arrow. I want to see between you and I just who can go farther. Hua Wanyue lightly smiled. By the time they looked again, she had already disappeared without a trace. Longkui was not resigned as she clenched her teeth. She looked askance at the Su Xing and Chu He several dozen meters away, spitting out 2 words of killing intent, "You hindrances." Her body passed like black smoke, and a powerful killing intent covered them head-on. This woman honestly was oppressive and fierce. Su Xing's body was powerless, somewhat lethargic. This honestly was escaping the wolf's mouth and into the tiger's den. Longkui, come back. Qingxi softly called out. The attacking Azura's murderous air instantly vanished like smoke into thin air. Longkui withdrew and returned to her master's side. Her eyes were seemingly looking at a dead person as she stared at Su Xing and Chu He. Excuse me, I wonder what relationship you two have with Hua Wanyue? Qingxi advanced, asking with a smile, her voice like a cleansing spring breeze. But what a pity that heaven was too impartial, giving her a songbird's throat yet with such a mediocre appearance. Su Xing was not of a generation that judged others by their appearances. Seeing that she should be a formidable star master, he naturally could not mention the matter of his being chased by the Rock Demon King. In addition, seeing that her star general was very addicted to killing, knowing that they were star masters was perhaps difficult to achieve a good ending. He replied, "We just happened to pass by this place. So it turned out to be this, we have caused you trouble." Qingzi lightly smiled. Su Xing only felt that the feeling this Qingzi woman gave him was somewhat strange, but neither could he say where this strange feeling came from. Thinking afterwards, perhaps the reason was her tone and ordinary appearance. Having come to Liangshan continent for this long, Su Xing found that the women he encountered truly were those beauties from novels. "Would you like to descend the mountain together?" Qingzi asked. "This woman is of unidentified origins, and her star general is addicted to killing. Right now, my star energy is completely drained. I can't take a good position, but journeying together only has danger." Su Xing pondered and tactfully refused Qingzi. He had also been scared stiff by that black windy frenzy of Lonkue's. She hid behind Su Xing, not daring to utter a word. Qingzi nodded, called for Lonkue and descended the mountain. Su Xing was not in the mood to stay, but he discovered a difficult problem at this time. As a result of the Rock Demon King's deadly pursuit, he simply had not paid attention. By the time he had stopped, he found he did not know where he had come to. Looking around on the mountain, the topography was continuous and uninterrupted, endless. Clearly, this was still the Vermilion Bird territory, but he could see the ocean 100 li away, which was not like the Vermilion Bird territory. "Do you know where this is?" Su Xing asked. "This should be the Vermilion Bird territory," Chui thought. She seemed to feel her reply was nonsense, and the girl lowered her head in shame. "The Vermilion Bird territory's mountains are countless. How could I remember any of them? Let's take a look with riding sword flight first then." Su Xing was without a choice, sending his gaze towards Chu He. "I have been poisoned. I currently am incapable of using my riding sword." Chu He replied in embarrassment. "Forget it. It would be better to first rest here for a few days, to recover." Su Xing shook his head. Chu He agreed, somewhat apologetic. Meanwhile, at the Jade Alum Palace, Lady Snake Scorpion sat within, her alluring face truly angered to being ashen. At the time the crying star twin-tailed scorpion Xie Bao returned to the star nest, Lady Snake Scorpion went dumbstruck. She could never have thought that within her own 5 Poisons Mountain there would be a cultivator that dared to draw her attention, moreover, killing Xie Bao. She truly wanted her lord husband to drag that bastard back so she could refine his mind into a human goo. "The great king has returned." A maid respectfully stepped forth. The Lady Snake Scorpion smiled. Xie Diao's eyes were gloomy, thoroughly filled with hatred towards the man who killed her sister. The large red cape entered the room, and Lady Snake Scorpion's expression tightened. Great King Dash, the Rock Demon King's body bore injuries, and his expression was seemingly very difficult. "What is that man's background? How could even you, the Great King, have been?" Lady Snake Scorpion was agape and speechless. "This king fears it was a star general." The Rock Demon King summarized the events that transpired. Lady Snake Scorpion naturally did not believe that excuse of the Rock Demon King's. The Speed Star Magic Traveler Dai Zong was famous as trash with martial force. How could the twin-tailed scorpion Xie Bao die by her hand? But looking at what the Rock Demon King said, there were no lies. Since the giant rock spreads its wing and flies 90,000 li had been used and still could not pursue, it could only be said that the opponent's powers actually were somewhat defiant of the natural order. The Great King had best rest well for the night. This 5 Poisons Mountain has been locked down, and the opponent is one who surely comes with ill intentions. Lady Snake Scorpion said. "Then lady had best be careful. Husband shall go into seclusion." The Rock Demon King exhorted. 5 Poisons Mountains poison gas crisscrossed, and even if it was him, he was not accustomed to this sort of place. This arrow really was not that powerful, but it was just that he currently was using high-speed flight and was not on guard. For that reason, this arrow's injury was very heavy. It was necessary to return to Falling Dragon Mountains Kuan and Penghall. 2. For the purpose of safety, the Rock Demon King mobilized several dozen demi-kings to stand guard, and still ill at ease, he brought out a one-handed 3-chi sword that was just like it had been formed from condensed starlight. The sword's blade and hilt were connected as one, and its light was reserved, its light sharp, the entire sword thin as a cicada's wing. When she saw this item, Lady Snake Scorpion was dumbfounded. This sword was the treasure of Falling Dragon Mountain, the purple star-grade astral treasure, Star's Falling Dragon Sword. 3. Wife must be more careful. The Rock Demon King had been struck with an arrow and could sense the terrifying nature of a star general, vaguely feeling this matter was somewhat strange. Sensing the Rock Demon King's intentions, Lady Snake Scorpion smiled passionately. Lord Husband, be at ease. Your servant will surely make those cultivators be gone forever. By the time the Rock Demon King left, Lady Snake Scorpion fiddled with this purple star-grade sword, feeling the terror of this sword. Although star weapons after 7-star already far surpassed astral treasures, with this sword in hand, even if it was a super void cultivator in this phase, the sword would no doubt send him to walk about inside King Yama's palace. A time of 3 days passed since the Rock Demon King's universally shocking giant rock spreads its wings and flies. Su Xing finally could count as knowing the place he was presently at. He unexpectedly had arrived at the Vermilion Bird Territory's northernmost Broken Water Mountain. This mountain was the Vermilion Bird Territory's borderline, and he could already see the sea at the other end of Liangshan continent. From southernmost to the northernmost, this escape flight unexpectedly covered 8 million li. This certainly made Su Xing go mute. If he were to return to Eastern District Mount Danxia, that would need a month's time and then some. The fastest pace would need 10 days, and of course, using the chaotic tail escape was a solution. Thus, Su Xing found joy in sorrow, gathering without much effort the spirit medicines of the evil smiting writ leisurely and carefreely. During these relaxed days, he heard a few rumors of the North District's immeasurable mountain. For example, the living goddess of lightning Wang Dinglu that plundered the birth treasure outline had fled to and hid in the North District. Immeasurable Mountain's ancestor Zhao Hua currently was on an unbridled search. A crowd of star generals had been attracted into the North District, making ancestor Zhao Hua seemingly face a great enemy. Su Xing originally wanted to steal it, but thinking of that randomly appearing and disappearing Wang Dinglu, searching any further was practically to find a needle in a haystack. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Territory's great cultivators had come to this place for a search, and only then did Su Xing dispel this idea. And after 7 days like this, the pair that left the North District very quickly reached the Vermilion Bird Territory's Deer Pursuit. Deer Pursuit was the only place in the Vermilion Bird Territory that was without a commander. This place was occupied by more than 100 demi-kings, each occupying 100 mountaintops. Because of this, these demi-kings joined in opposition against outside enemies, and there was no lack of hermit adepts that could be placed on par with demon kings. For this reason, Mount Danxia's Holy Mother Qixia, Falling Dragon Mountain's Rock Demon King, Immeasurable Mountain's ancestor Zhao Hua, as well as Silver Night Mountain's Holy Mother Yu Chun all could not be injured. In addition, Deer Pursuit overlooked the 4 other districts, acting as a buffer zone had been tacitly preserved by everyone. Because of this, the Center District could even be said to be Demi-King Deer Pursuit, a fierce anomaly. Su Xing had once thought of usurping the Deer Pursuit, learning from that Rock Demon King to independently become king. With this, the Azure Dragon Territory's 10 great sects would be nothing difficult. This was the quickest strength-preserving approach because the Vermilion Bird Territory respected the strong, often looking to whose fist was large. However, Su Xing's current strength could not be said to be very weak. Choosing the Vermilion Bird Territory's Demi-King was not hard, but nevertheless, there was not a guarded mountain with capital. This kind of matter also needed to be planned from within, actually giving Su Xing a very big epiphany. On this day, Su Xing and Chu he flew to a borderline mountaintop of Center District Deer Pursuit, Firehorn Mountain. 5. They directly received a high temperature that overflowed the skies. Firehorn Mountain, although it only had a range of less than several 10,000 li, Firehorn Mountain was actually a volcano. All year round, there was a raging inferno, rushing into the horizon. From far away, the temperatures were extremely high. Let alone humans, even cultivators were incapable of enduring the high temperatures, And the temperatures in the middle need not be said. The one governing Fire Horn Mountain was the Fire Shadow clan. 6. These clan members were fire energy experts, controlling fire as if it was an arm, very exceptional. The Fire Shadow clan's character was violent like a flames. The surrounding demi-clan cultivators all were not willing to provoke them. Originally, Su Xing was not at all willing to travel to this Fire Horn Mountain, but it seemed he was very anxious to rush back because going to Fire Horn Mountain could save a few days' time. The pair already flew to the highest place, and that burning was still fierce as before. A woman materialized beside Chu He. That woman had long hair and wore blue treasure clothes that were sleeveless with a skirt dragging along the ground. She had boots and a corset, and from the blue light that flickered in her eyes, Su Xing was unsurprised to know that Chu He was a star master. It seemed Fire Horn Mountain still made Chu He feel danger, for she made her star general stick to her side. Her premonition was awfully accurate. At the time they entered Fire Horn Mountain, flames rushed into the sky. Several dozen red shadows encircled them with subtle shuffling. These people wore red armor, and their faces had been half covered. Their hands grasped fire swords while they were equipped with scarlet armor. Among them, the leading man was Galaxy Early Stage, and his legs stood upon a fire cloud. His hand grasped a fire spear. Brazen thieves, you would go so far as to dare pass over this mountain on your own without asking Great King Firehorn for permission? The man's forehead had a flame horn, and his eyes were penetrating. Judging by his expression that stared at Chu He's star general with evil intentions, Su Xing could guess that the not asking part was false. Perhaps Chu He's star general had already evoked in Great King Firehorn covetous thoughts. Su Xing looked out the corner of his eye. Those Fire Shadow clansmen already began to surreptitiously lay a fire-type array. They were somewhat scheming. Your servant is Chu He, serving under Mount Danxia's Holy Mother Qixia. Your servant has some business to return to the mountain. For lacking manners like this, your servant apologizes. Chu He said. Mount Danxia. Great King Firehorn was startled. His eyes turned. Do not deceive me. You must have the Mount Danxia token. Yes. Having been surrounded by this demi-clan, Chu He did not dare be trusting. Her star general had been killed back into the star nest, and she had only recovered just a bit currently. If they actually fought, there perhaps would be no good fruit to eat within someone else's territory. Bring it over for this king to inspect. Great King Firehorn shouted. Just at the moment Great King Firehorn went to catch the token, suddenly, the token had been snatched away by Su Xing. Are you making fun of this king? Great King Firehorn's voice was cold, fire chi shooting in all directions. Will you truly let us pass if you get it? Su Xing slowly asked. Of course. If it truly is the Holy Mother of Mount Danxia, this king naturally will be hospitable. Great King Firehorn said. Su Xing grunted, then threw the token. Great King Firehorns had somewhat of a mocking expression. These stupid cultivators. By the time this king obtains your token, then we shall properly deal with you. One hand caught the token, and in an instant, he saw a purple lotus flower. That lotus flower was incomparably strange, and it was stuck behind the token. Because the throw speed was too quick, it was practically linked with simply no way to perceive it. Not good. Great King Firehorn greatly changed. Su Xing coldly smiled. A purple lightning net violently opened and captured Great King Firehorn within. Su Xing subsequently gestured, and 12 flying swords assembled into a sword array that broke open Great King Firehorn's raging inferno. The swords pressed against his whole body, golden light flickering. As long as Su Xing willed it, they could destroy this demi-king. Let alone that some of the Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-kings were Galaxy Early Stage. In actuality, they were very ordinary in Su Xing's eyes. A few demi-king did not practice any sort of ability, and neither did they have any superb magic weapons. They completely relied on their demi-clan's innate gifts to declare themselves overlords, just like the Great King Devil Mask last time that was incapable of holding back even Su Xing's flying swords. Even other galaxy cultivators could at least release flying swords and such. It could be seen these demi-kings were all somewhat intelligent and good-looking, So of course some demi-clans and demi-kings were indeed frightening. Actually, Great King Firehorn relied on Firehorn Mountain's exceptionally favorable location and had excellent abilities, but he simply did not anticipate Su Xing would suddenly rebel. Furthermore, that flying sword was sharp and fierce. The purple lightning unexpectedly broke the fire chi protecting him, and by the time he returned to his senses, he was already restrained by the flying swords, incapable of moving a muscle. "You cunning cultivator!" Great King Firehorn cursed. Su Xing coldly smiled. He abruptly smashed a jade plate in his hand towards the demi-king's forehead. Great King Fire Lord screamed in fright, and the jade was smashed against him. The jade plate transformed, and a blazing totem appeared. Su Xing shook the jade plate. "Master, please spare me." Demi-King Firehorn screamed in pain. He crawled upon the fire cloud, and the other Fire Shadow clan members immediately trembled and knelt. They could see that the jade plate in Su Xing's hand was the God's Sealing Plate 7, an immemorial secret treasure specially used to capture demi-kings. This was opportune, for Su Xing had obtained it from Demi-King Golden Wings and refined it on the road. Originally, he had not hoped to capture a demi-king. After all, these demi-kings were far from being that easy to capture. If it was not appropriate, provoking the retaliation of the other demi-kings created benefits outweighed by the losses, but this nevertheless was a golden opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Now, he had actually appointed its use. In nearly the blink of an eye, Su Xing became the great king of Firehorn Mountain. Chu He was stupefied, and she had not yet clearly understood how this sort of excessive transformation took place. The interior of the cave was extremely hot that it was simply like being in the center of an underground fire. Chu He was unable to take it and retreated to outside the mountain, which made Great King Firehorn secretly sneer. Although this servant had been captured by a trace of divine intent by the God's Sealing Plate, he nevertheless was not resigned to be so. Su Xing knew this, yet he remained unmoved. He discreetly swallowed that 5 spirits magic fire relic, for this 5 spirits magic relic's nature was categorized as fire type. When it entered his throat, there was a brief fiery sensation, but the 5 spirits magic relic immediately began to exhibit its function when it slowly redirected the surrounding high temperatures to the entrance. The fire spirit relic originally was the condensed form of a tool refinement master's quintessence, and this tiny underground fire naturally was not to be feared. When Great King Firehorn saw Su Xing so at ease amidst the underground fires, the carefreeness was somewhat alarming. He did not know what the background of this cultivator was, but even if it was his own body that had trained more than 50 years in the fire spirit transformation, the high temperatures of the underground fires in the cavern were adapted to only with great difficulty. Seeing Su Xing capable of acclimating in no more than the blink of an eye, the blaze seemingly being absorbed into the skin of his body was not at all like the appearance of a self-protection magic weapon. Immediately, his heart was endlessly reverent. This Firehorn Mountain actually is an extremely good fire vein to train fire-type cultivation methods. Su Xing inwardly said. It was a pity his 5 styles refinements had still not yet learned how to have the thunder style ignite a fire. Otherwise, refining the fire system true vigor in his body perhaps would not need more than a month to reach the transforming realm. The entire cavern established within the interior of Firehorn Mountain was known as Fire Cloud Hall. 3. It was constructed entirely from the fire crystal indigenous to Firehorn Mountain, and it was constructed with the utmost care and attention. The fire chi was pressing, and it dispersed over the towns in the hall's surroundings. Although it could not compare in elegance, it nevertheless was embellished with a secretly allowed fire spirit magic circle. Even though it welcomed enemies, it was a superb array. Fire Cloud Hall's interior was very enormous, with 100 or so stone rooms 10 zhang tall. Fire crystals acted as stools, and the ground was covered with fire pelts. Infernos burned, the high temperature was strong, and the odd flora and essence jade of fire spirit decorated very luxuriously. This Firehorn Mountain at the center district deer pursuit attained a small escape. Relying on the exceptional geography and environment, no one rushed over to provoke them. In this Fire Horn Mountain, besides the Fire Shadow clan, there were also more than 10 fire-natured clans as well as several demi-kings with more than 5,000 demi-troops. However, the Fire Shadow clan relied on their innate skills to take possession of these precious grounds in the Fire Horn Mountain, paying respects to the great king. A crowd of demi-clansmen and soldiers knelt inside the hall. All of them were powerful characters of Fire Horn Mountain, and each had cultivation that was galaxy stage or above. However, while their cultivation appeared very good, their foundations were quite weak. "Who among you is capable of a sword chant?" Su Xing asked. The dozens of cultivators inside the hall looked at each other in dismay. For a main hall with this many galaxy stages, unexpectedly, not one of them was capable of sword chant abilities, which made Su Xing genuinely somewhat disappointed. The Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-clans all relied on the cultivation methods within their clans since time immemorial, always passing their practice for the sake of not breaking the traditions of their clan. Things like sword chants naturally were widespread in the Azure Dragon Territory, while the Vermilion Bird Territory originally had very few. In addition, the materials to construct the flying sword of the sword chant were also precious. The Vermilion Bird Territory was abundant in every kind of magic medicines, but ores and jades were actually very scarce. For this reason, sword chants were very rare to see. However, there was also another reason, which was that the Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-clan were incapable of nurturing flying swords inside their bodies like the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators. Thus, sword chants naturally were rare. I do not have interest in staying often in this Vermilion Bird Territory. Capturing you can be considered something you brought upon yourself. Master lectures rightly. Great King Firehorn was sincere and earnest, with fear and trepidation. I have many important matters to attend to, and since I have captured you, naturally I shall not treat you unfairly. These cultivation methods shall be left with you. Practice them yourselves, and someday perhaps they will have some use. Su Xing thought, and he brought out fundamental cultivation methods. These cultivation methods were obtained when he killed Ancestor Heavenly Fire. They were of no use to Su Xing, and giving them to this Fire Shadow clan now was just perfect. Gratitude to Master for your favor. Su Xing's magic energy was profound and deep. It was not something Great King Firehorn was capable of imagining. Although he had been instantly subdued, his heart was still somewhat uncomfortable. Now hearing that Su Xing was bestowing texts, he was briefly rather startled. Originally, he had thought these would be some trash cultivation methods to console them, and Great King Firehorn was even somewhat smug with mockery. However, when he saw those texts and rare books, he immediately was endlessly moved. And how could the astral bag of Ancestor Heavenly Fire have trash cultivation methods? If they were not high grade, then they were supreme grade. How could these Vermilion Bird Territory demi-soldiers that were poor and destitute not rejoice when they saw this? The Vermilion Bird Territory's myriad demi-clans each had special abilities, but they did not have a standard system like the Azure Dragon Territory. Thus, relying on every sort of magic medicine and ley line to cultivate their magic energy to profound levels was somewhat all talk but no action in meaning. The Azure Dragon Territory was extremely stringent with their blockade against the Vermilion Bird Territory. Powerful cultivation methods could not be circulated over so as to avoid expanding the enemy's wings. Consequently, the Vermilion Bird Territory incomparably yearned for what was in the Azure Dragon Territory that they would invade at that time. Now, with the cultivation methods that Su Xing granted, Fire Horn Mountain was just like it was a grade higher than the other clans. A crowd of generals including Great King Firehorn accepted these willingly, paying their respects for Su Xing's kindness. The Vermilion Bird Territory had always respected the strong, and Su Xing used a galaxy early-stage cultivation to capture Great King Firehorn. Entering the center of the underground fires, then showing deep profundity, and now bestowing high-grade fire-type arts, with these 3 steps, how could these not make them submit? Their hearts recognized that Su Xing perhaps was a great monster that hid his cultivation. Su Xing nodded in satisfaction. He planned to first rely on Fire Horn Mountain to open a gap into deer pursuit. Fire Horn Mountain's environment just so happened to give Su Xing the opportunity to conceal himself. Which bastard dared to bully Dad? 5. From outside the hall suddenly came a voice. Su Xing looked over and saw a fragrant girl draped in red muslin rush in. Her red hair and crimson eyes were pretty, but what made Su Xing pay attention were the 12 flying swords that hovered behind the woman. Surprisingly, she was capable of a sword chant. "Daughter, you must not be rude to master." Great King Firehorn hastily shouted. 6. Fire without shadow. 7. The girl chanted and made hand seals. The 12 fire shadow flying swords whooshed over to attack Su Xing. These flying swords could only count as mid-rank in Su Xing's eyes. Su Xing flicked his fingers, and the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder was launched, just like a dragon as it grabbed hold of the flying swords. Everyone in the main hall was astonished. This was the first time they had seen Immortal's magic. The girl's complexion turned pale. Nevertheless, she spat, spouting out a burst of earthly fire. "Daughter, desist." Great King Firehorn split open the earthly fire with a palm. "Dead." The girl angrily looked at Su Xing with confusion. This deceitful man used some despicable trick. How could that be considered open and candid? If you have the skill, then determine just who is higher with this princess. Fine. Su Xing nodded, and one heaven tearing flew out. The purple thunder lightning claw broke, and the girl urged the 12 flying swords to shoot forth. That heaven-tearing sword slashed unstoppably, cutting down the 12 flying swords. Heaven-tearing was an immemorial sword chant, forged of supreme-grade materials. How could it be compared with those flying swords that girl had? When the girl saw her sword chant was unexpectedly incapable of handling one flying sword, she was stunned, but she smirked. Su Xing felt this was strange. Suddenly he saw the girl's forehead flash a star crest. A fiery shadow with 2 eyes of scarlet, just like a male lion attacked toward Su Xing. A star master! Seeing that Great King Firehorn's expression was complex, Su Xing immediately realized when this Great King Firehorn initially robbed Chu He, it was perhaps because of her identity as a star master. Su Xing dodged, and he saw a scarlet fire iron chain hammer ruthlessly pulverize his seat. How could Su Xing dare be careless confronting a star general? He fired a Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder to break this blaze. The opponent also wanted to score a quick victory. She wanted to instantly get rid of Su Xing to avoid him activating the God Sealing Plate. That scarlet fire iron chain pierced through the purple thunder, and the iron chain was bathed in a fire cloud. Each and every one of these fire clouds were like demonic lions that pounced at Su Xing. Su Xing sent out 12 flying swords, and heaven-tearing slashed with whooshes, eliminating these swan and eye fires. The golden swords roared with a dragon's cry, and they became a net. This star general was seriously formidable. Her figure seemingly flew, and seeing her iron chain fling, the fire jade in the hall had been shattered on impact. The iron chain then shot straight at Su Xing. Heaven-tearing formed a shield of swords to block this chain. Suddenly, an unclear figure appeared behind Su Xing. The opponent had surprisingly abandoned her weapon in order to attack. Her hands grasped claws, and her expression had the ominous glint of red fire, just like a vengeful lion, swift and severe. Su Xing only felt a powerful pressure heavily bear upon him, and his body seemingly was out of control. Not good. It was a yellow rank battle tactic. Su Xing promptly felt this sort of oppressive imposing air originated in the Star General's finishing move. If an ordinary cultivator had been pounced on by her, perhaps they would have already been frozen by her imposing air, and then have had their necks snapped. However, put anyway, Su Xing had received Lin Yingmei's and Yan Yizhen's baptism. His movements truly were like lightning, for his left hand moved forward to protect his throat while his right moved backwards to grab. 8. The opponent's sharp claws grabbed onto Su Xing's hand, and it was as if it had been seized by a lion. There was a scorching hot pain, and the sharp claw continuously pressed down to tear Su Xing's windpipe. Su Xing's right hand at this time grabbed a jutting, soft object. Shockingly, it was that Star General's breast. The Star General froze, and her lion claw also turned sluggish. Su Xing took advantage of this opportunity, and he imparted a Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder onto his palm. With a shallow cry, The girl was pushed back several paces. The Star General honestly was incredible to surprisingly not have been knocked unconscious. The Star General had been repelled and was about to charge. Su Xing could be considered to know from personally the experience of fighting ordinary star cultivators and martial force Star Generals. As expected, a fiend star was troublesome. Seeing that she still wanted to charge, Su Xing clutched the miraculous Bodhi tree, considering whether or not to kill her contractor. At this time, he heard the girl shout, "Rongshin, please stop." Only then did the Star Maiden's arched body slowly resume a cautious stance. The fire fog scattered, and Su Xing saw distinctly the appearance of the Star General in front of him. The woman was abundantly beautiful, her features extremely so. Her pupils were like rubies, and her long curled red hair seemingly burned like a flame. She wore a fire jade tiara, and she was draped in swanine armor. She hefted an iron chain hammer filled with essence fire. What a demonic Star General, especially those eyes that were harsher than a lion's, gazing at Su Xing wishing she could devour him alive. Raging Heaven's Starfire Hammer. It turned out to be the ranked 49th whole star fiery-eyed Swanine Deng Fei. 11. Looking at her towering chest, the exposed half of that perfect roundness had a hand imprint. Su Xing then knew what she was resentful about. It seemed that Star Generals were still women after all. Enough, you are not allowed to make trouble. Hurry and come pay respects to Master. Great King Firehorn yelled. Looking at Su Xing, he was secretly startled. A galaxy early stage that unexpectedly could handle a Star General was actually inconceivable. His heart was even more firm in believing Su Xing was a monster that concealed his cultivation had reached annihilation. In order to avoid Su Xing resentfully killing his daughter, he hastily shouted to stop her. That maiden's long hair was spry and lively, her figure graceful, especially that hair that was thoroughly red like a flame. She was known as Firehorn Mountain's Princess Yen, 12, and her character was also somewhat irascible. How could she be resigned to see her father become a prisoner under the stairs? Now seeing that she had been ordered to stop, and then seeing her own Star General unable to kill Su Xing in a spurt of energy and give him a chance for the God Sealing Plate, she was briefly dumbfounded where she was, embarrassed and at a complete loss. This is Subordinate's beloved daughter, Tuoba Yen, and you still do not pay Master respects. Great King Firehorn hastily shot a glance at Princess Yen. Su Xing thoughtfully looked at Princess Yen. He played with the God Sealing Plate in his hand as if nothing had happened. This kind of vague threat clearly added more pressure, and Tuoba Yen was conflicted. Whatever you are thinking of doing, you are just finding trouble with this princess. I never thought that I could encounter a Star Master at Firehorn Mountain, and it is even a man-eating lion. Su Xing sized up that whole star fiery-eyed Swanine Deng Fei, his tone containing a slight pressure. Without her master's order, the fiery-eyed Swanine could only have no other choice. Gnashing her teeth, those crimson eyes let loose an ominous glint. This sort of Star General was a disaster if left at his side, and this Princess Yen seemed also to be an unruly tsundere. If he left things alone, this would bring him harm. It was a pity that with Su Xing's current star energy, controlling a galaxy early-stage demi-king with the God Sealing Plate was very precarious. Besides, it would not be too possible for the God Sealing Plate to control a Star General. However, this girl dared to act and had the courage to assume responsibility. If she could do that, then she actually was not bad. Thinking things through again and again, Su Xing's heart then had a countermeasure. Your servant did not think she was unable to take down a galaxy early-stage cultivator. Deng Fei's expression was gloomy and cold. Great King Firehorn, what would you say your servant should do to tame this lion? Su Xing asked. In the battle just now with Tuoba Yen and her Star General, Great King Firehorn and the other demi-clan generals did not take advantage of the situation, which gave Su Xing a favorable impression. Only because of this did he let Tuoba Yen go. Otherwise, with that sort of close-quarters attack by the fiery-eyed Swanine, Su Xing would already have bluntly first executed the contractor. You wish to tame your servant? Deng Fei continuously laughed coldly. The raging heavens' starfire hammer seemed to sense the indignation in its master's heart. The bright flames explosively swelled and turned into a lion. She advanced a step, her steps creating raging infernos, about to execute an attack. Things cannot be like this? Princess Yen shouted. Great King Firehorn looked at the crowd of generals. The abilities Su Xing displayed had already thoroughly convinced the Fire Shadow clan's generals. Their hearts had also tacitly agreed on the fact Su Xing was king, and now, seeing that Su Xing unexpectedly could defeat a star general had only naturally made them even more reverent. Princess Yen is one of my rare kin that can utilize the sword chant ability. I ask that master start off leniently. If she serves the great king, then it is certain she can be like a tiger that has grown wings. The generals plead for leniency one after the other. Like a tiger that has grown wings, or am I nurturing a tiger that invites disaster? I fear that is not easy to say. Su Xing's tone was ice-cold. I also implore that master let her off just this once. My beloved daughter's mother passed away early. Her natural disposition is stubborn, but she is not a person devoid of sense. Great King Firehorn begged for leniency. Subordinate is willing to properly discipline his daughter. And this is actually true. To be able to stand up for her father, she is a filial daughter. Su Xing nodded his head, remaining non-committal. Hearing that things had somewhat turned for the better, Great King Firehorn was delighted, but the next sentence made his pleasant surprise stop there. Does the Vermilion Bird territory not have a Nether River blood oath? Toba Yen, if you truly are a filial daughter, then accept the consequences. Su Xing indifferently looked at Tuoba Yen. Hearing the words Nether River blood oath, Tuoba Yen's complexion slightly changed. The Nether River blood oath was an extremely well-known and even somewhat malicious pledge of the Vermilion Bird territory's demi-clans. With blood as the evidence, the soul as the medium, once the words were uttered, the oath-taker became a slave, unable to emancipate themselves. However, only with this could Su Xing be at ease, otherwise, raising a female tiger by his side, who could relax. Don't think. Deng Rongxin raised her hackles, and she was about to throw out the raging heavens starfire hammer. Princess Yen extended a hand to stop her. The girl actually seemed surprisingly calm. Those red eyes fixed firmly on Su Xing, seemingly wanting to look through something. You wish to have a star master become your slave? So do you not fear the consequences? You had better think over your consequences right now. Su Xing laughed inwardly. He was a star master that could be considered the so-called rational and lawful towards the star duels. Even if he was not a star master, Su Xing could not possibly be frightened by a legend shrouded in mist. Not only he, but any one of Liangshan continent's countless star cultivators did not think this way. The sole individuals that somewhat considered this were those deeply rooted sections. Fine, then this princess shall oblige you, Tuoba Yen resolutely said. Princess. The fiery-eyed swan-eyed Deng Rongxin was still somewhat unresigned. Tuoba Yen shook her head and bit open her finger. She let the blood splatter in her surroundings, forming a profound magic circle. This array had 10 death gates, 10 life gates, and a sea of blood in the center. Tuoba Yen began to slowly chant, I enter the death gate, then losing rebirth, life and death are in hand, and the blood sea is attached. I enter the life gate, wishing to enter my grave, abandoning life and death, becoming a slave, becoming a servant. This Nether River blood oath had considerable background. Legend had it that the Vermilion Bird demi-clans all had a common ancestor named Ancestor Nether. 3. In the Vermilion Bird territory's myths, this Ancestor Nether was in charge of the underworld's blood rivers, controlling life, death and reincarnation, and the veins in the bodies of all of the Vermilion Bird demi-clans flowed with Ancestor Nether's blood. If blood was used for an oath, then it was the world's most poisonous pledge. If the oath were to be broken, then the violator would forever fall into the underworld and experience death, robbed of reincarnation. Tuoba Yen promises the man right here before her to forever fall. For all my life, I become a slave, and my life and death fall into his hand. Each word that Tuoba Yen chanted made the star general fiery-eyed Swananai a bit more unsightly. Her fingernails pinched into her flesh, bringing out a scar of blood. After the final word was uttered, that blood sea array condensed into a drop of blood. This drop of blood blended into Tuoba Yan's soul intent, and then it floated before Su Xing. Su Xing opened his mouth and absorbed this blood intent. Tuoba Yen cried out, and the Nether River blood oath was considered finished. With this, Tuoba Yen was Su Xing's servant for her whole life. So long as Su Xing did not change the oath, should Tuoba Yen be the slightest bit disloyal, then death would be better than life. Tuoba Yen walked forward. She suddenly squatted and brought out a bottle of medicine that she spread onto the wounds that had been ripped open by the fiery-eyed Swananai. This Nether River blood oath honestly was formidable. She had just finished swearing it, and Tuoba Yen was this quick to obediently begin serving him. You are a princess, after all. I will not do anything to you. Seeing that Tuoba Yan's fingers were trembling, how could Su Xing not know what she was thinking? Tuoba Yen for her whole life is master's slave servant and does not dare have delusions. Tuoba Yen replied with an expressionless face. I will not treat you unfairly. Consider these 3 things as given to you. Su Xing knew that when it was appropriate to show kindness and to exert pressure. 2 items then flew out. Seeing those 3 things, the expressionless Tuoba Yen immediately showed astonishment. There was a secret art, and there was a double-edged sword. This 9 chapters of Conflagration Sky has recorded 9 types of true fire supreme grade palm techniques. It will be very helpful to you. Many thanks to Master. Princess Yen bowed her head and said. Seeing her so cute, Su Xing also gave the firebolt sword to her. 5. This artifact currently did not have any use to Su Xing, but Princess Yan's fire element was fierce, so this was very helpful to her. What is your flying sword? Su Xing asked. Reporting to Master. This sword is known as Fire Without Shadow, and what is practiced is the 12 True Fires sword chant. I have a heavenly dark clinging fire sword chant. 6, and it is a high-grade sword chant. Take it. As for materials, I have some, but the others you will have to manage yourself. Su Xing gave the heavenly dark clinging fire sword chant and a few materials to Princess Yen. Signing the Nether River blood oath, Princess Yan's strength increased a bit, and thus would be more helpful to him. Slave servant thanks Master. Compared to her ice cold just now, the present Tuoba Yan's tone was much warmer. I still have important matters to attend to. When I return the next time, I hope this Firehorn Mountain will all be in your Great King Firehorn's control. Su Xing coldly said. Great King Firehorn heard Su Xing's meaning, and he was startled and happy. 9 caves and 10 streams, there still are several demi-kings. With Master's secret books as a guide, these cave groups can be received in about a year. About a year. Too long. Su Xing shook his head. He brought out a pearl and a mirror. This pearl's name is Boundless Sun Pearl. Its spiritual power has suffered a bit of damage, but relying on Firehorn Mountain's ley lines for renewed refinement, it will be a powerful magic weapon. However, you are incapable of using it. Firehorn, this pearl shall be given to you. There is also this Fire Dragon mirror that you had best also take for refinement. Su Xing gestured with his hand. After he acquired Heaven Tearing, these 2 magic weapons were of little value to Su Xing. The Boundless Sun Pearl and Fire Dragon mirror flew into Great King Firehorn's hands. Great King Firehorn's most powerful magic weapon was a true fire spear, forged from fire essence and true fire, but it simply was frail against Su Xing's Heaven Tearing. With these magic weapons, his strength also greatly increased. Great King Firehorn repeatedly expressed his thanks. Seeing Su Xing so extravagant, the fiery-eyed Swananai was amazed and lost her previous drive. Right, do you have Karma Fire Spirit Stones, 7 here? Su Xing suddenly recalled that Yen Yizhen required 6 pieces of Karma Fire Spirit Stones to advance to 3-star, and he wondered whether or not this Firehorn Mountain had any. Karma Fire Spirit Stones? This dwelling keeps 4 pieces. Great King Firehorn said promptly. Then good. I just so happen to have some use for them. Su Xing smiled. Hurry and go bring those 4 pieces of Karma Fire Spirit Stones over for Master. Great King Firehorn commanded. Immediately, he thought, it would be better for subordinate to go. Su Xing nodded, letting the others all withdraw. The main hall was left with only Su Xing and the Princess Yen obediently squatting at Su Xing's feet. Seeing this girl was previously tsundere and now actually obedient, he gave her a massage. This transformation scene honestly was somewhat big. Princess Yen saw that Su Xing was staring at her, and her face turned thoroughly red as she averted her gaze. Why would you want a star duel? Su Xing asked. It seems your Firehorn Mountain's influence is not great, so everything about the star duels would simply bode ill for you, correct? Princess Yen and Deng Rongxin both were taken aback, having never thought Su Xing would be this caring. Slave servant does not dare hide the truth from master. Only by signing a contract could slave servant nurture a flying sword. Doing so can help dad expand his power. You are indeed filial. Could it be you never thought that this matter is very dangerous? Su Xing smiled. Life in the Vermilion Bird territory is inherently very dangerous, and there are things to fear. Princess Yen shook her head. Deng Rongxin scowled coldly and looked at Su Xing. Your servant sees you are not an ordinary person. Just what sort of person are you? Rongxin, do not be rude to master. I, the fiery-eyed Swanenai, has only the princess as her master in this life. This man had best understand this point. Should you do anything shameless to the princess, your servant will not watch with folded arms. Rongxin. Princess Yan's tone sunk. Deng Rongxin's eyes were lion-like in their resolve. You think I would want her body? Su Xing's such frank words made the two girls stumped and bashful. A while longer, and then I shall leave. Starting from today, you shall help me properly manage this Firehorn Mountain. Su Xing was unconcerned. I fear that I will not return for a considerably long time. Ah, master will leave just like this? Could it be you will not rest for the night? Tuoba Yan's eyes concealed some pleasant surprise. Deng Rongxin felt this was odd, for she originally believed this man that grabbed her breast was certain to do something obscene. The half-moon had nearly set. How could Su Xing have any sort of happy mood? You may withdraw first. Carefully study, and do not make me disappointed. Slave servant understands. Princess Yen neatly excused herself from the main hall. By the time she left, a golden book flew out. Its pages flipped and stopped on a certain page. Star position, whole star name, Deng Fei nickname, fiery-eyed Swanenai true name, Deng Rongxin rank, 49th star weapon, Raging Heavens Starfire Hammer, 2-star, Star Beast. Rank, Realm, 1000 Military's 5th stage innate skill, Crimson Pupils Flame Hair, 8, 5 elements, Fire Yellow rank special skill, Fire Ni Ripping / Swanenai Skyward Roar Flame, 9, current status, Contractor, Tuoba Yen. It seems my martial force is just about at the 1000 Military's 5th stage. Su Xing muttered to himself. That isn't accurate. If we really continued to engage, the one who'd have lost certainly would be me. Su Xing shook his head, denying his conjecture just now. This sort of guess really was somewhat conceited. To confront a martial 4-star general, it was still best to not let her get close. Not a moment after, Great King Firehorn brought over the 4 pieces of Karma Fire Spirit Stones. These Karma Fire Spirit Stones used heavenly fire to form, and less than 10 had condensed in Firehorn Mountains several hundred years. The majority had been used, and now, these 4 were what remained. Taking the Karma Fire Spirit Stones, Su Xing then briefed him on some other things. At this time, he suddenly recalled the matter of Wang Dinglu. He asked, the affair of the birth treasure outline, are you aware of what happened? Great King Firehorn nodded. Because Tuoba Yen was also a star master, he would concern himself about the birth treasure outline. However, in plundering that purple star birth outline, there were more than 100 demi-clans, demon kings, and all 4 mountains moving out. By his strength, he could only watch. Right? Tell me about the things of the star masters and this birth treasure outline. Su Xing thought. He was not extremely knowledgeable about the Vermilion Bird territory, and he just so happened to be able to use this opportunity to know the rough idea about these. As you wish. Great King Firehorn did not dare be neglectful. For the sake of his daughter's star duels, he was actually surprisingly detailed about the Vermilion Bird Territory's Star Masters. The Vermilion Bird Territory's three most famous Star Master were Falling Dragon Mountain's Lady Snake Scorpion, Immeasurable Mountain's Wuji, and Silver Night Mountain's Shichinchin. 2. For the current star duels, every large group's influence would contend against each other. Without first mentioning that a wish could finally be granted, the status of having a Star Master was naturally very honorable. Among these three Star Masters, the one most deserving of fear was Lady Snake Scorpion. Su Xing already knew this point, and in regards to Immeasurable Mountains Wuji and Silver Night Mountains Shichinchin, they were also formidable characters. However, they were not worth a mention compared to Lady Snake Scorpion. Although Lady Snake Scorpion was only Nebula late stage, her entire body of goo poison arts was very incredible. When she originally battled with Wuji and Shichinchin, she utterly defeated the two, and no one in the Vermilion Bird Territory dared to irritate her. Speaking more of the business of that purple star birth treasure outline plunder was also very bizarre. The forbid dance that limited only Star Masters was very quickly broken, and the result was that several tens of thousands of demi-soldiers entered a confused melee. In the end, that birth treasure outline steel unexpectedly had been struck open, and the birth treasure outline rose above everyone. Everyone had set their sights on snatching it, but not a single one of them had thought a silhouette would flash past and take the birth treasure outline into a sack. By the time everyone had noticed Wang Dinglu, she had already disappeared without a trace. At this time, Great King Firehorn had wanted to take advantage of the situation, thus saw and clearly understood, which made him feel disbelief. However, the Vermilion Bird Territory now was layers of blockades. Wang Dinglu thus found it difficult to escape, and the rumor was that she currently had fled to the North District next to Deer Pursuit. Great King Firehorn had also assigned people to pay close attention to Wang Dingliu's movements. From the moment Su Xing left Firehorn Mountain, Great King Firehorn still did not stop urging him to stay. Su Xing was already very tired of acting as the deeply hidden adept. How could he have the energy to stay longer? After Su Xing left, he still fully thought of things about Wang Dinglu. That living goddess of lightning honestly was formidable. She probably accurately calculated that the Vermilion Bird Territory's birth treasure outline plunder would be chaotic, and only then did she come to this place. He never expected that the birth treasure outline would be seized by one of the ranked last star generals, which could be considered a rare sight. "You are all right?" Outside Firehorn Mountain, he interrupted Su Xing's thoughts. Seeing she had still stayed, Su Xing felt surprised. "And why did you not leave?" "You saved me, so it would be better to go together with you," he said. "If I did not come out, then you would have waited this idly?" Su Xing smiled. "If you stay here, then you should inform me," he carefully said. "Let us leave for now." "Right, do not tell anyone about this matter." He nodded. Su Xing said nothing more. The two then flew towards Mount Danxia on their riding swords. North District, deep in the mountains. The moon was dark and the winds were high. Within the forest came the sounds of shouts. A silhouette just like a winding snake traveled back and forth in the forest. Black lights seemingly cut open the moonlight and flashed past. These people were currently in pursuit of a young girl. "You stupid idiots," there was a long, drawn-out voice. The girl confronting several dozen people in deadly pursuit seemingly treated this as a game. She was not in a flying escape, but it really was not a fast movement. Rather, by a sort of instantaneous movement style, she swiftly moved about. Every flicker was practically even faster than the blink of an eye. She could move several dozen times within one breath, and although the people chasing from behind had cultivations that were extraordinary, with artifacts and magic weapons that were also out of the ordinary, they were unfortunately no match for that maiden's flash movement. There was a sort of humiliation being made fools. Living goddess of lightning, this immortal wants to see just how far you can run. This immeasurable mountain is entirely the ancestral master's domain. If you obediently send the birth treasure outline this way, not only will Founder let you go, he will even give you a star master. What say you? A man yelled. In the deep mountains and old forests, in its quiet and seclusion, his voice was very ear-piercing. What replied was a giggling voice. So it turned out that immeasurable mountains Wuji is an idiot? That Wuji man angrily gnashed his teeth. He was precisely immeasurable mountain's star master. Originally, he had planned to refine here, but he never expected to run into the living goddess of light Wang Dinglu in a curious coincidence. In a momentary blossoming of the flower of excitement, he convened more than a dozen disciples to encircle and kill. It was a pity this inferior star's flash jump, 3, honestly was fucking disgusting. Normal artifacts and arrays simply were incapable of trapping her, and in the end, it developed into an exhausting chase to kill. Fortunately, this hanging head mountain was the domain of Zhaohua Mountain. Wu Ji presumed she was a trapped beast. Young master, there is no need to speak more nonsense. This general shall see to what time she can persevere. Beside Wu Ji, a gown-wearing girl holding a red iron staff said in a bored manner. Her eyes were seemingly clear and acute as a falcon's. Her figure was like a deer's, strong and healthy. Several times, she was close to striking down Wang Dinglu. Elder sister can try. Wang Dinglu instantly disappeared. Within the mountain forests, she executed unbelievable movements. Atop Hanging Head Mountain, the moonlight had been enshrouded by black clouds, presenting a desolate appearance. A figure emerged. Wang Dinglu yawned, and she watched the Star Master and the rest still chasing below. This is truly a headache. Wherever I go, it is not peaceful. Did I not just take one book? This book belongs to us Star Generals, anyways. The living goddess of light's wrist flipped, and a golden scroll appeared. Then it would be better to come to Elder Sister's side. Completely without warning, a lofty voice abruptly sounded out behind her. Wang Dinglu instantly turned around. She saw a woman of mediocre facial features wearing a blue and white palace skirt. If one were to not look at her face, then hearing her voice would make one believe she was an absolute beauty. If Su Xing were present, he would probably be astonished. She was Qingxi, and it was unexpected that the Wang Dinglu hiding in the boundless mountain ranges of the Vermilion Bird Territory and Azure Dragon Territory would be encountered by her. It was also unknown whether this was a coincidence or deliberate. Wang Dingliu's expression concentrated, and Qingxi's white hand waved. She tossed out a green ring, and this ring became a green shadow that coiled over. Wang Dinglu had not yet returned to her senses when that green shadow wrapped around her entire body, becoming a dragon that tightly constricted her. No matter what Wang Dinglu did, she could not move in the slightest. The originally smug living goddess of lightning's complexion greatly changed. A purple star-grade astral treasure. She had never heard of such a powerful star master that could control a purple star-grade astral treasure. Just who are you? Qingxi stepped delicately in Wang Dingliu's direction, and at the same time, she picked up that birth treasure outline. Wang Dingliu's guts churned with regret. She had always shot at the birds, but this time, she had been pecked by them. The woman smiled. Finding little sister certainly was not easy. The birth treasure outline pointed at Wang Dinglu flipped open, and a passage of information appeared. Star position, inferior star name, Wang Dinglu nickname, living goddess of lightning true name. Rank, 104th star weapon, thunder roll lightning flash, 5, 4 star beast. Rank, realm, heavenly clothes 7th stage innate skill. Flash movement, 6, 5 elements. Earth yellow rank special skill, lightning flash, 7, dark rank special skill, thunderclap, 8 current status, no contractor, can be conquered, detailed materials. Incredible. I never thought little sister's star weapon would unexpectedly be 4 star. Qingxi lightly smiled. She extended a hand and waved. That astral treasure became a dragon shadow that entered her sleeve. I wonder what little sister's true name is? Wang Dinglu looked at Qingxi with indefinite gloom, and lightning exploded in her hand. Who is your little sister? Don't think just because you are a woman that you can feel that you are an elder sister. Her hands flicked, and a thunderbolt blossomed. Dark rank style. Thunderclap. Kacha. The thunderbolt had been instantly smashed to pieces. A cold-as-ice woman appeared at Qingxi's side. She was Longkue. If you are not willing to follow elder sister, then it would be better to kill you. Longkue said nothing further. She raised the gloom around her 2 hands. Longkue, be a bit gentler towards little sister. Qingxi barred Longkue. Wang Dinglu looked at Longkue, brimming with alarm. At this time, Wu Ji and the crowd he brought finally encircled Wang Dinglu. Bring the birth treasure outline over, and Immeasurable Mountain will let you all go this time. Wu Ji coldly said. The young girl holding the red long staff obstructed Wu Ji's front, as if she was facing a formidable enemy. Young master, be careful. Yenner. 9. Seeing as star generals are merely so, everyone, immediately activate the array. So it turned out to be little sister remote star tiger slaying General Li Zhong. Tenqingxi smiled very warmly. Wang Dinglu, are you willing to scale to the peak together with your servant? If you can get out, then we can talk. Wang Dinglu dodged, and she flash-jumped 1,000 meters away, sneering. Meanwhile, the cold woman Longkue was already impatient and raised the gloom weapon in her to cut Wu Ji down. The red light that tiger-slaying General Li Zhong's star weapon 100 Beasts mountain-shaking staff. 11. Raised was a yellow rank style. Tiger expulsion beyond stream. 12. Bang, a heavy pressure easily broke her yellow rank style, pressing enough to make the tiger-slaying General Li Yan's legs bend. She nearly knelt, startling her. You are... 5 Colors City. Wu Xio watched the sky where there was another falling star, and her brows wrinkled even more deeply. Suddenly, she saw a silhouette fly at high speed towards the pavilion. Wu Xio's tight brows finally smoothed out. So it turned out you were still alive? The one who approached was Su Xing. Su Xing grinned. Xio, if you actually thought I died, you would have already no longer stayed in this place. Wu Xio was left dumbstruck by Su Xing's words, but she nevertheless was unwilling to easily show it. She coldly said, you were chased by the Rock Demon King enough that the entire Vermilion Bird territory knows. You truly are too audacious. Pausing, Wu Xio brought out a bottle of medicine. These are spring waters become rain pills. 13. You had best not let something happen to you. Your servant certainly does not wish for Yingmei to blame me. Su Xing laughed and unceremoniously took the bottle. Is Gong Sun Huang still all right? I have Xiebao's blood, so half of the goo poison should be able to be cured. Su Xing thought. Wu Xio stared at Su Xing, as if she wanted to see through him. However, the more she looked, the more her heart was distracted, her thoughts in turmoil. For the world to have a star master the likes of you, truly, this is a matter your servant is incapable of understanding. I hear signing a contract allows us to easily comprehend each other. Su Xing chuckled. Say those words to Gong Sun Huang. Wu Xio turned and entered the hall. Su Xing was stunned. He entered the hall and heard a clear voice. You have come back. Su Xing turned his head, only to see that Gong Sun Huang was already floating over. Like a doll, she peacefully sat upon his shoulder. Your complexion is somewhat unwell. Su Xing saw that Gong Sun Huang's complexion was increasingly unsightly. His heart had some worry, and he brought her into the living room. I'll first help cure you of the poison. Gong Sun Huang shook her head. That pair of eyes seemingly unsullied by the world's dust had a sort of magic charisma. Are you willing to sign a contract with Gong Sun Huang? The girl asked very softly. Each word was nevertheless very clear. Are you willing to stay by my side? Su Xing smiled and asked in turn. Gong Sun Huang suddenly lowered her head and kissed Su Xing's lips. Instantly, as if a cool breeze blew past their hearts, their foreheads immediately each twinkled with the light of stars, and Su Xing heard 3 words. 3 words light as feathers, but heavy like Mount Tai. I am willing. Gong Sun Huang ended the kiss and blinked. Her pupils deep as a lake had only a tranquility while Su Xing had somewhat not yet come back to his senses. On the middle of his and Gong Sun Huang's foreheads appeared a scorching mark. A star energy flowed into his body, and the originally extreme repercussions of using the chaotic tail escape had been cured in the blink of an eye. This sort of feeling was the characteristic of contracting a star general. We contracted? Su Xing's mouth hung open, for he was very surprised that Gong Sun Huang agreed so neatly. You actually have so much trust in me? Su Xing asked her. Gong Sun Huang tilted her head, seemingly pondering a bit before nodding. The Wu Xiao to the side leaned against the wall. She did not show much astonishment at Su Xing and Gong Sun Huang signing a star duel covenant because Gong Sun Huang's goo poison had already become grave. If she did not enter a star nest to recover, perhaps she truly would have been crippled. Furthermore, ever since after the Rock Demon King fully used the giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li for a chase to kill that shocked the entire Vermilion Bird territory, the land bustled with discussion regarding the target of the Rock Demon King's deadly pursuit. Wu Xiao very easily guessed correctly just who the Rock Demon King was chasing. To be frank, when she learned that Su Xing was unexpectedly being pursued by Great Sage Falling Sky, there was an instant that Wu Xiao felt extreme shock. A galaxy stage by himself had surprisingly dared to provoke a supervoid's agitation and anger, leading to a chase to kill across the entire sky. This completely toppled the notions that Wu Xiao had regarding cultivator ranks. Even if it was her right now, she herself would not go actually provoke the Rock Demon King. Especially after she knew that Xie Bao's death was what incited the Rock Demon King, Wu Xiao's mood was even more complicated. She felt Su Xing was very stupid to unexpectedly provoke an insufferable opponent for the sake of a star general that was unrelated to himself, but from another perspective, she felt Su Xing was very crafty. Wu Xiao felt if she encountered such a star master, she would inevitably have her interest piqued. Actually, Wu Xiao had believed Su Xing would use the jade pendant to escape to his home. After all, the opponent used the Vermilion Bird territory's unrivaled super escape technique. Even Wu Xiao had prepared to depart, but something happened that Su Xing would never have expected. What's that? Su Xing asked. Wu Xiao glanced at Gong Sun Huang and replied, Gong Sun Huang said you would return. Su Xing was stunned. He looked oddly at the girl on his shoulders. Do you believe in me this much? Gong Sun Huang nodded. Your servant said that even if you actually escaped the Rock Demon King's pursuit by a fluke, for you to return, you certainly would experience a heavy calamity and become a cripple, undoubtedly. Wu Xiao said, Are you suicidal? Even if you do not cherish your own life, think about Ing. This sentence's tone carried strictness. Who could have known the Rock Demon King was at 5 Poisons Mountain? Su Xing was helpless. Wu Xiao and Gong Sun Huang very inquisitively listened to Su Xing's encounter. When they heard that Su Xing used a type of unprecedented chaotic tail escape technique to surprisingly contend against the Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li, they felt genuinely shocked. Gong Sun Huang even used her small hand to tenderly stroke Su Xing's face, with a somewhat sorry expression. Su Xing felt that Gong Sun Huang so simply signing a contract with him could possibly be as Wu Xiao had said. Even if he returned, he would undoubtedly have suffered injuries and taken advantage of the Star Duel Covenant to rise from the dead, like a cripple. Although Su Xing had gone through half a month of recovery and was halfway there, this Star Duel Covenant actually certainly made Su Xing recover to peak condition. This was more useful than any miracle cures or recuperation training. After she swallowed Xie Bao's blood to suppress the goo poison, Gong Sun Huang's wan complexion recovered a bit of color. Afterwards, she entered the star nest. There is a matter I want to ask you. Wu Xiao suddenly recalled something. What matter? Su Xing asked. That day you left, Holy Mother Qi Xia's representative came seeking you. Holy Mother Qi Xia? Su Xing was taken aback. This was somewhat outside his expectations, and his brow furrowed. Holy Mother Qi Xia is Mount Danxia's Demon King? What's she doing looking for me? I'm not even familiar with her. You used pure gold of 1 billion at an auction? Wu Xiao was expressionless. She seemingly came for this purpose. This is an invitation card. The harm star threw the invitation to Su Xing. The card unexpectedly invited the Su Xing married couple. Su Xing was at a loss. How does this Holy Mother Qi Xia know we're husband and wife? Hearing Su Xing's husband and wife description, Wu Xiao's brow knit together. However, she did not feel like arguing over this. Did you attend? Su Xing asked her. Wu Xiao disdainfully jeered. How could your servant possibly be interested in this sort of thing? Besides, who that holy mother invited was you, and your servant certainly would not accompany her. Nevertheless, since you did not attend, her people have urged several times. Su Xing nodded. In his mind he suddenly heard Gong Sun Huang's voice. The harm star continuously acted as your wife to decline. Gong Sun Huang said indifferently. Su Xing was stunned and he could not help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Wu Xiao said, annoyed. She felt that smile of Su Xing's brimmed with banter. Nothing at all. Su Xing looked at this card. There would be a banquet tonight, and since Holy Mother Qi Xia urgently needed gold, having a meeting with the overlord of this Mount Danxia was not a big loss. Su Xing raised his head, and his gaze directly fixed on Wu Xiao. What are you looking at? Wu Xiao bluntly wrapped herself in her cloak, covering her supple figure. Su Xing laughed aloud. Let's go together tonight. Wu Xiao said nothing. In truth, she was very interested in this Holy Mother Qi Xia and very much wanted to know what plans she had for Su Xing. Right, however, on the card, we are husband and wife. That Holy Mother Qi Xia and the Azure Dragon territory have a close relationship, and the rumor is that the Shifting Flower Sword sect emerged from the East District. At that time, there would be no shortage of Azure Dragon territory cultivators. In order to not arouse suspicion, I have a suggestion for our act. Su Xing muttered to himself. Wu Xiao perceptively felt that Su Xing had some terrible idea, and she asked in a meaningful tone, Oh? Then what do you plan on having your servant do? Is it only to pretend we are husband and wife? Her white fingers lightly drummed empty space, and the airflow between her fingers indistinctly formed a line. It seemed she would unceremoniously cast it if Su Xing were to utter some frivolous line. Su Xing glances at Wu Xiao's white hands, and he said very earnestly, might as well fabricate a husband and wife address to fool them. Husband and wife address? Wu Xiao's tapping finger stopped. And, Xiao, you wouldn't address me as Lord Husband, right? Su Xing smiled. Wu Xiao snorted, nodding without the slightest hesitation. Although she addressed herself as your servant, for her to address another man as Lord Husband? That was really dreaming. Not having castrated this man was considered a miracle. But you like to self-address as your servant. If you don't address me as Lord Husband, wouldn't that arouse the suspicion of others? Su Xing said. Wu Xiao nodded. Apparently, she felt that what Su Xing said was very logical. It seemed this man actually was not incorrigible. Then how do you plan to do this? Let's arrange an address for each other, just to let others think we are a married couple. What address? Su Xing pretended to ponder for a moment. I'll just address you as dearest wife, and you address me as dearest husband. Dearest wife? Dearest husband? No matter what, Wu Xiao felt these names sounded very strange. Is your servant very old? 3. The so-called naturally refers to the white hairs of old age. Then, represents the female gender. Represents male. Outsiders that hear this would naturally feel this would be related to a husband and wife. Su Xing extravagantly embellished his explanation. This makes others feel it pertains to married coupled and won't arouse suspicion of us. How isn't this two birds with one stone? Wu Xiao furrowed her brow. Where did you hear of this? What's the matter? Su Xing asked her. Although Wu Xiao felt this address sounded incongruous, when Su Xing put it that way, she thought it over and concluded these were names for married couples. She would lose nothing calling out this sort of address, and she nodded. As you wish. Dearest wife, shall we practice first? Su Xing awfully wanted to smile. What is there to practice about this? Wu Xiao said disdainfully. You must treat anything you do with earnestness. Su Xing sternly said. Could it be the Grand Harm Star is fond of being undisciplined? Dearest husband, do not use psychological tactics on your servant. Wu Xiao coldly smiled. Dearest husband, of your servant's words, are you satisfied? Su Xing sighed. For this cool and elegant Wu Xiao to say the two words, dearest husband, was incomparable ecstasy as expected. Worthy of being called your servant's dearest wife, so quickly have you entered the role. Su Xing praised. Dearest husband, you are not bad either? Speaking this fabricated address so smoothly. Wu Xiao's fingers rolled her long hair that fell before her chest, her smile enchanting and mysterious. Who let dearest wife Xiao be this cool and elegant? Any man would be smooth. Su Xing chuckled. Wu Xiao felt the man before her had a sort of pleasure derived from getting away with something. Dearest husband. Suddenly, when Wu Xiao said these words, her expression concentrated. Dearest wife, what is the matter? Su Xing was confused. Dearest husband, go die. Wu Xiao bit her lip, harumphed, turned and walked away. That long hair fluttered like a galaxy, indescribably poetic. Why would the magnificent Harm Star Pilgrim do such senseless practice with this man? Truly, her brain was broken. Su Xing stared at her back. It was quite a pity that Wu Xiao had realized his scheme so quickly. The dearest husband that Wu Xiao said honestly was very satisfying to a man's vanity. More than 10 li outside of Five Color City. A cloaked woman emitted a chilly aura from head to foot, and she was encircled by several tall and sturdy men. Take her down, one man shouted. The next instant, the cold woman's alluring figure was like a graceful wind. She suddenly rushed forth, completely the distance to the men. She seemed to turn her body lightning quick, stepping across a space of several zhang. She came to the side of a man, and without saying a word, she directly made a slanted chop with her hand. From her palm chop came a power that was more bone-chilling than any weapon. The man extended his hand to block it. That thick and solid arm had a powerful contrast to the woman's supple hand, but though it was a palm, the movement was simply too fast to see a shadow. Along with the chop, there was a sudden soft sound in the air, just like something had shattered. A distinct red line immediately emerged. The man's face greatly changed, for there simply was not enough time to react. This man hurriedly protected himself with both hands, fully releasing his self-protection artifacts. The faint red ripple immediately surged like a tide, and a distinct partition suddenly emerged before his eyes, striking against the red abnormality the woman's chop brought without any ceremony. Kacha! A crisp shattering noise once again rang, a violent reaction simply outside of the imagination. The detached woman's thrust was seemingly ordinary but actually matchlessly valiant. The opponent's barrier was ruptured as if it was an eggshell. The man stumbled backwards, and when he came close to a large tree, his neck sprayed a fountain of blood several meters high. His pupils seemed to melt away while he wobbled around before he fell. The others were astonished. What sort of person are you? The woman's cloak fell. Those vermilion pupils had an indescribable apathy, yet when she gazed in the direction of Five Color City, they had a sort of indescribable softness. The horizon washed clean anyone, smiting with its light. It flowed with the 1,000-year wine of an immortal, becoming several clothes for the Lingshan. Mount Danxia's Red Cloud Hall, too, on its summit was the Vermilion Bird Territory's famous beautiful scenery. This hall was established on a peak of 800 zhang, completely constructed from iridescent colored glass. It glittered at the red clouds, and when seen from far away, the entire summit was cloaked in red clouds, appearing to be dazzling. Outside the main hall, ranks of mighty demi-soldiers stood guard, protecting with utmost strictness. They strictly prohibited those of untenure rank from entering. These demi-soldiers were majestic and formidable, impressive in appearance. They did not have a demi-clan's unusual appearance, but their eyes had clarity, their lips were like saber cuts, or their hands held long halberds, or large axes, or spears. They all were equally splendid in the light. Propitious vapors circulated, so it seemed this was a pretty good artifact. Placed in the Azure Dragon territory, and that would be an item that would make the mouths of many cultivators water. Above all, the Imperial Guards of this gate and the leader of that squad of soldiers had armor with circulating talisman script. The essence light of their eyes shot everywhere, and their bones were developed. Surprisingly, they were all military cultivators who were only that little bit off compared to a demi-king. The atmosphere within Red Cloud Hall's main hall was joyful, with continuous happy laughter, yet on the outside, the atmosphere was nervous. Not a single person was idle, and there were only each and every one of those demi-clan beauties, their bodies wearing a token that distinguished their identity. They traveled to and fro, amidst the chirping and her fragrance, but even if it was these demi-clan beauties, every single one had reserved star energy, their cultivations masterful. When Su Xing and Wu Xiao came forward to attend the banquet, they somewhat praised the scene they saw before them. It proved itself to be Mount Danxia's strategic location, for the entries and exits were not to be trifled with. The one who controlled this Mount Danxia was the Vermilion Bird Territory's most famous beauties, the 100 Flowers clan. 3. The females of the clan all were beautiful ladies that were out of this world, beauties that captivated even birds and beasts, and looking now, it was a fully justified reputation. This Red Cloud Hall was located in the surrounding Shishun. The palaces were continuous, and the red light extended 10 li, a scene that was extremely spectacular. After sending the invitation card up, a maid then guided Su Xing and Wu Xiao into the main hall. The main hall was immense beyond compare. Rows of pillars glorious as the morning glow glistened. The sunset-colored tiles laid over the floor did not have the slightest of cracks and were entirely lavish. Although Su Xing had been ceremoniously invited, he was at most only a galaxy early stage. He was an unknown minor character, and after he entered the main hall, there was no one to greet him. Su Xing happily idled, engrossed as he sized up the people who came. Above Red Cloud's palace, the gold and jade in glorious splendor, the light fog canopy, the layer of rosy clouds, the desolate music, 10 people wore palace dresses, demi-clan beauties wearing light muslin were in the middle of a dance. On both sides there were several crystal jade tables, with fine liquor and delicacies, rare and odd fruits on display. The aroma assailed the nostrils, and others ate with gusto. Beauties, good wine, delicious food and spirit fruit, this simply was a day only the immortals could enjoy. Su Xing noticed an odd phenomenon. Although it was the Holy Mother Qixia who invited him, all who came were surprisingly Azure Dragon Territory cultivators. For the Shifting Flower sect to flourish in the Azure Dragon Territory, it was all because we had all of our fellows to rely on. Do me the honors. Today, we invite our Azure Dragon Territory fellows. However, it is a party, so seek pleasure, and everyone certainly must not be formal with me. Right above the feast sat a composed and dignified beauty. She fully smiled, and her white hand held a golden goblet, swallowing top-quality wine within in one gulp. This beauty wore a Qi Xia crown on her head, and her body was draped in 5-colored phoenix red cloud dress. A respectable majesty came from directly head-on, and the ripples of a powerful star energy could be vaguely seen in the 3 zhangs surrounding the beauty. It slightly revolved, and it became countless tiny rainbow vortexes. So long as someone attacked, these rainbow vortexes would rapidly swirl, twisting the invading artifacts or magic weapons to pieces, utterly overbearing. By Su Xing's seeing clearly skill, 5, even if he did not use divine intent to sense it, he could see that this woman's cultivation was super void stage at the minimum. It appeared that she was Holy Mother Qi Xia, unmistakably. The words Holy Mother Qi Xia spoke made Su Xing gain a whole new level of respect for her. Because of her super void stage cultivation, she had no need to foster any friendly relations with these cultivators, but she showed natural and unrestrained conduct. Her modesty that had etiquette was completely unlike the arrogant supervoid cultivator in the rumors, so it was no wonder the foreign Shifting Flower sect that entered the Azure Dragon Territory could swiftly become one of the Azure Dragon Territory's 4 great sword sects in 100 years' time. If there was such a holy mother behind them, indeed, they could not be underestimated. Su Xing suddenly recalled that in this purple star-grade birth outline plunder, the 4 great sword sects only had the Blooming Water Sword sect and Shifting Flower Sword sect not show up. The Blooming Water Sword sect was because its star master lost interest by means of a falling star, 6. But this Shifting Flower sect nevertheless not showing its face was somewhat strange. On second thoughts, according to Mount Danxia's influence, the Shifting Flower Sword sect vying for the Vermilion Bird Territory's birth treasure outline was within reason. Su Xing and Wu Xiao chatted as they ate, quietly monitoring their surroundings. "Brother Su Xing." He suddenly heard a loud shout. Su Xing turned his head to look. An extremely pretty man walked towards him. He had not seen Fang Xangu for a few days, yet he was increasingly handsome. Even Su Xing was somewhat envious. At Fang Xangu's side, Jing Yanran absent-mindedly looked around as she ate crystal cake. "I never expected to see Brother Fang here." Su Xing smiled. Fang Xangu somewhat apologetically cupped his fists. "Holy Mother Qi Xia had inquired your servant about Brother Su Xing's affairs, and your servant implores that you not take offense. It was you who exposed us to her?" Wu Xiao's tone was cold. "Your servant must also thank Brother Fang. Otherwise, we would not have the honor to be able to experience this spectacular Qi Xia treasure palace." Su Xing smiled, not showing much surprise. In the Vermilion Bird territory, the sole person who knew his identity was only Fang Xangu. On that day at the auction, he and Fang Xangu formed a relationship, so it was very easy to deduce just who Holy Mother Qi Xia found to ask her inquiries. "Where did you go the past few days?" Zheng Yanran licked her lips and asked. "Just wandering randomly about the Vermilion Bird territory." Tisk, unexpectedly making elder sister Xiao guard a lady's bedroom alone. Su Xing laughed out loud. He again turned to Fang Xiangu to find out this dinner entertainment business. Only then did he know that for those who came from the Azure Dragon territory, as long as they were a supercluster stage cultivator, they had been invited. As if there was something going on, the 10 great sects and their supercluster stage founders have arrived in person. It seems something is about to happen. Fang Xiangu muttered in a low voice. Su Xing clicked his tongue. As expected, in this world, an invitation without good reason to a feast was not a happy occasion. There was no such thing as a free lunch. "Brother Xiangu, will you not introduce this gorgeous beauty?" 4 or 5 men and women walked over. The one speaking was a man in an elegant blue robe with pointed brows and starry eyes. His face was like crown jade, and he looked intelligent. Wu Xiao's supreme cool elegance had already made many of the male cultivators present endlessly interested, but due to Wu Xiao's galaxy late-stage cultivation, they did not dare be rash. The cultivation of this man hitting on her was also galaxy late-stage. He had a bit of a friendship with Fang Xiangu, and seeing Fang Xiangu chat so happily, he could not help but wait for an opportunity to step forward. As far as the Su Xing next to Wu Xiao was concerned, he was completely ignored. A galaxy early-stage cultivator was not worth his attention. "This is fellow Su Xing," Fang Xiangu said. "This is fellow Long Outyen." 7. Long Outyen faintly nodded, his eyes gazing at Wu Xiao. "This is fellow Su Xing's first wife." Fang Xiangu saw his gaze and was somewhat unable to recognize his intentions, so he hastily spoke. "Oh, his wife, what?" Long Outyen suddenly shouted. Each and every one of the cultivators that came with him were somewhat astonished. In the majority of dual cultivators, which one would not have the male cultivator above the female cultivator. Seeing that Wu Xiao was unexpectedly higher than Su Xing by 2 realms of cultivation, they had believed Su Xing was but only a gigolo. This Long has truly made an error in judgment. Long Outyen jeered. Fellow Su Xing is indeed very fortunate to be able to have this pretty beauty as his wife. It seems that fellow Su Xing must have some sort of outstanding aspect. Otherwise, how could this beautiful woman care for you? This Long would like to ask for guidance. Of course your servant has an outstanding aspect. Su Xing showed a crafty smile. How could the cultivators present not discern the ambiguity in Su Xing's words? Everyone was then disdainful and angered. Fang Xiangu promptly mediated. He said, "Today is Holy Mother Qi Xia's feast. Everyone is a fellow citizen of the Azure Dragon territory, so you must not ruin your composure. The Holy Mother has taken notice of us. For the fellow Su Xing who has such a beautiful woman, take care that you do not suffer misfortune preventing you from enjoying her." Long Outyen harumphed, leaving behind words that were seemingly threatening yet not. He bowed, turned and left. His expression sure enough was lofty to the heavens, and the cultivators that were with him together bowed and left. This Long Outyen is of Twin Dragon's Mountain. He has some background, and his natural disposition is conceited. Your servant asks that Su Xing not mind. Fang Xianggu said, nothing could be done. Who let my waifu be too cool and elegant? Su Xing looked mockingly at Wu Xiao. Wu Xiao was calm and collected as a dry well. Her eyes were actually continuously on Holy Mother Qixia. That Holy Mother Qixia has come looking for you, Wu Xiao said. Sure enough, a maid then walked before them. She greeted them in a warm voice. Holy Mother Qixia has invited you too. Please follow slave servant. Su Xing affirmed and took his leave from Fang Xianggu, departing the main hall together with this maid. Passing through a long corridor, they entered a hall within the hall. Atop the hall, Holy Mother Qixia sat upright, her eyes tightly closed. Multicolored light circulated about her body very solemnly. Su Xing took notice of this and did not see any traps at all in this, but he did not dare lower his guard. Holy Mother Qixia has requested to see your servant, and I wonder for what matter. Su Xing cupped his fists. Holy Mother Qixia opened her eyes. She wore a kind smile, and she hinted at him to sit. Fellow Su Xing has truly kept me waiting. My wife's body has a weak constitution, so your servant went on search of some medicine ingredients. There were many delays, so your servant must beg forgiveness. Su Xing spoke out his prepared excuse. Holy Mother Qixia, I wonder how those Fine Ladies Meridian Supplement pills were? Fine Ladies Meridian Supplement pills? Su Xing glanced at Wu Xiao, and the latter turned her gaze away. Holy Mother has made this Su overwhelmed by her favor. Su Xing smiled. No matter, for your majesty to have this beautiful a wife, certainly you must cherish her well. Holy Mother Qixia smiled. Hearing the two blather on about her status as a wife, Wu Xiao was disinclined to take notice. In reality, I sought out your majesty because I heard your majesty had once made a transaction of 1 billion in pure gold at an auction? Su Xing nodded. This indeed happened. Your servant does not know the one who was fond of gold, but they have let your servant have good fortune. Those items that your majesty purchased were actually sold by me. Your servant never expected it to be Holy Mother Qixia. Could it be the Holy Mother has regrets? Su Xing could not help but feel this was strange. May I ask, does your majesty still have pure gold? Holy Mother Qixia's feigned careless appearance made Su Xing smell a hint of getting rich. Your servant had obtained several mountains of gold by a fluke and actually still has some. Su Xing narrowed his eyes. As expected, it is as I thought. Holy Mother Qixia gently laughed. She glanced at the maid to her side, hinting to the maid. She clapped, and several maids beautiful as flowers entered the hall. In their hands, they each carried a red embroidered box, half kneeling on a single knee before Su Xing. Holy Mother Qixia extended her hand and swept. The embroidered boxes all opened, and inside each was an item or a magic medicine, spirit jade, artifact, or magic weapon, their luster glorious. Twinkling with the rays of the 5 colors, each was an extraordinary item, and even Wu Xiao, with her high ken, could not help but raise her brow. Your servant wonders what intention this is of the Holy Mother? Su Xing asked as he smiled. May I ask, your majesty, how much more pure gold do you have? Holy Mother Qixia asked. 6 billion. Because the Azure Dragon territory's transactions rarely needed gold, Su Xing mostly used the items from the Heavenly Spirit and Earthly Fiend chest to barter, actually leaving him with a surplus of pure gold. The Holy Mother Qixia before him unexpectedly needing gold made Su Xing somewhat curious. For the reason that the Vermilion Bird territory was not at all abundant in minerals, gold was thus even scarcer. Could Holy Mother Qixia collecting gold like this mean she had some use for it? 6 billion? Holy Mother Qixia stared blankly. Su Xing's numbers were clearly far greater than she had anticipated. She somewhat stared oddly at Su Xing. Although the Azure Dragon territory was abundant in gold, gathering this much absolutely was not easy. Perhaps only dynasties and overlords like Emperor Liang could have this kind of national power. However, the Azure Dragon territory's hermits were numerous. Obtaining 10 billion through such a happy encounter was not impossible. This actually is more than what I wanted. Holy Mother Qi Xia briefly muttered to herself. She looked at Su Xing and said, "How does your Majesty feel about these items? I would like to use these to exchange for that 6 billion liang of gold." Su Xing glanced about. Some things were indeed pretty good, with even that 1,000-year medicinal ginseng being present, but it was still unworthy for Su Xing to exchange. Seeing that Holy Mother Qi Xia urgently needed such great quantities of gold, if he did not make this demon king of Mount Danxia take out something that would move him, how would Su Xing be satisfied? Although gold can be said to be not too free-flowing among the Azure Dragon territory's star cultivators, your servant also has some use for it. Though these items are fine, Holy Mother, they are completely useless to your servant. Those 1,000-year medicinal ginseng roots are but a good medicine to give your wife to mend her body. Waifu, what do you say? Su Xing glanced sideways at Wu Xiao. Wu Xiao pursed her lips, her expression clearly stating she was uninterested. That red cloud cloak is a magic weapon. It can guard against water and fire, defy hellfire, and it can also resist sealing script. If this was the Azure Dragon territory, this item is worth several billion. Holy Mother Qi Xia faintly smiled, pointing to a rainbow-colored immortal's clothing. That immortal's clothing was indeed extraordinary, its treasure light bubbling forth, talisman script flashing. It should have no problem being valued at 3 billion, but the problem was that this magic weapon was even more useless to Su Xing. Looking at the apathetic Wu Xiao, Su Xing feigned helplessness. Holy Mother Qi Xia smiled, but she was not angry. She could tell that the married couple before her was always steady and calm. To remain unmoved, it was evident they had seen even more rare items. Otherwise, ordinary galaxy stage cultivators would have had a rush of excitement upon seeing these magic medicines and treasures. It seems I have underestimated the ken of you too. The maids collected the items. Holy Mother Qi Xia pondered a moment. Then she used sound transmission, and a maid nodded, excusing herself. Another maid then filled cups of fine wine for Su Xing and Wu Xiao. Seeing from your out-of-the-ordinary appearances, I wonder from whence you studied? Holy Mother Qi Xia drained the jade fluid, feigning leisure as she asked. Your servant and my wife are free and unfettered by nature. We have no school nor sect. Su Xing knew she had begun to doubt his and Wu Xiao's identities as star cultivators. However, Su Xing was not worried. Even if she found out he was truly a star master, she would not dare do anything. It seems your Majesty's wife is apparently somewhat not too happy. I wonder if it was because Red Cloud Hall did not properly greet you? Holy Mother Qi Xia smiled. This is how my wife is. Your servant asks the Holy Mother to not take offense. Su Xing cupped his hands. Holy Mother Qi Xia laughed. None taken, none taken. To be able to cultivate to galaxy late stage at such a young age, this makes me feel admiration. Holy Mother Qi Xia chatted sentence by sentence. Su Xing naturally was quite familiar with this type of sly inquiry of hers to conduct an investigation. Roughly several cups of tea later, 6 maids once again stepped forward with items. This time, the items were not as many, with only 2, and each was covered with a red embroidered cover. These are items of mine that still have some value. If your Majesty again does not place them in your eyes, then I truly have nothing else. Su Xing dismissed with a laugh Holy Mother Qi Xia's words that were apparently both soft and hard. Holy Mother Qi Xia had the maid open the red cover, and this time, Wu Xiao very curiously cast her gaze. The first was a piece of jade about the size of 2 fists. This jade was sparkling and translucent, a rainbow light lingering in its interior, its reflected splendor filling the room. This was a piece of excellent rainbow light glass jade. 2. When this jade was sanded into a fine powder and used to pour spirit materials into artifacts and astral tools, it could possibly add a rainbow light. It could resist evil spirits, repel miasma, and particularly as far as female cultivators were concerned, the property of the rainbow light glass jade to emit iridescent and multicolored light received no small measure of love. Furthermore, this rainbow light glass jade could beautify the face and delay aging. In the Azure Dragon territory, it was a madly coveted object. and it was like the makeup that the women of modern society loved. Liangshan continent's high-class ladies were quite fond of this sort of thing. Su Xing estimated that for this large of a quantity, if done properly, it could be sold for 10 billion without a problem. This first piece of rainbow light glass jade made Su Xing somewhat interested. Although it was useless to him, it was pretty good to send as a gift to his now 6 beauties. However, Su Xing remained calm and collected as before. For the so-called business deal, he could not let the others see his own urgency, so as to avoid falling to a disadvantageous position. Holy Mother Qi Xia originally used this rainbow light glass jade specifically for Wu Xiao. Seeing the two were still indifferent, she hinted for the next item. The second item was a massive spirit flower. This flower was verdant and tender, each petal bloomed to the finest part. It had white bell-like buds that were heavy, somewhat similar to the Chinese lantern flower in shape. 3. It emitted a serene scent that seeped into the soul, and a brief sniff could make one feel full of vigor. Upon seeing this item, Su Xing's expression could not help but tremble, his heart surging into a perilous situation. This unexpectedly was Thousand Bells Immortals Dew. The Thousand Bells Immortals Dew was given the name Thousand Bells because the buds appeared similar to little bells, with each possessing 100 flowers. Each bud contained a worldly spiritual power dew, which was known as the Thousand Bells Dew. This was a significant strange flower in the Azure Dragon territory. It grew in places with the quintessence of heaven and earth. During the day, it absorbed morning dew, and during the night, it brewed moonlight. Legends said each Thousand Bells Immortals Dew could let the star energy of star cultivators at or below supercluster stage instantly recover to a complete state, and this was the reason it was called Thousand Bells Immortals Dew. As far as a supercluster stage cultivator was concerned, this simply was a supreme panacea. From time immemorial, Liangshan continent's star energy recovery medicines were mostly expensive and were scarce at best. Naturally formed strange flowers like the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew had each petal valued at a value of at least 10 million and above. This stock was more than 10 billion without doubt. However, panaceas like the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew that could pull strongly against a crazy tide at the critical moment could not possibly be sold by cultivators. Holy Mother Qi Xia was a supervoid cultivator, so the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew was useless to her. Seeing that Su Xing and Wu Xiao were of galaxy cultivation and thus using it for an exchange, it could be seen she actually would use her hard-earned capital for 6 billion of gold. Of these rainbow light glass jade and Thousand Bells Immortals Dew, your Majesty can choose one of them for an exchange. Holy Mother Qi Xia smiled self-confidently. This rainbow light glass jade was an extremely great attraction towards women, and the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew was a galaxy stage's panacea. She was not afraid of Su Xing being unmoved. Sai Xing muttered to himself. To say that his heart was unmoved was to lie to himself. When he saw the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew, Su Xing had an urge to steal it. His miraculous Bodhi tree practically exhausted his star energy with each single use. If he had this Thousand Bells Immortals Dew, he completely could get rid of the future consequences. With regards to entering the evil smiting hall, there was also much benefit, but Su Xing did not agree without restraint. Rather, he feigned hesitation. Su Xing was a cunning fox. Since this Holy Mother Qi Xia dared to bring out 2 items with values exceeding 10 billion, she clearly did not care in the slightest. Otherwise, simply bringing out the Thousand Bells Immortals Dew was sufficient to make Su Xing agree. In other words, what she actually wanted was to rope in Wu Xiao. Seeing the rainbow light glass jade seemingly prepared just for Xiao, his thoughts rapidly churned, and Su Xing then had a countermeasure. Could it be these were unable to interest you? Then I truly am helpless. Holy Mother Qi Xia laughed. No, Holy Mother is actually too generous. Neither of these 2 items brought to the Azure Dragon territory can be valued at more than 10 billion. Su Xing spoke forthrightly. For this value he believed the Mount Danxia overlord's heart was clear. However, since she did not take these to the Azure Dragon territory to exchange for gold, evidently, there was some secret motive. Holy Mother Qi Xia showed a trace of admiration. As expected, Your Highness is candid. Then I wonder if there are any more misgivings? To be quite honest, these several billions of gold is due to my beloved wife Sio's very significant contributions. This Su does not dare selfishly think only of himself, but Holy Mother has also seen it. My lovely wife already is galaxy late stage and on the verge of entry into supercluster stage. This 1,000 bells immortals due is not useful to her, but that rainbow light glass jade is actually should be accorded to my beloved wife, Su Xing said as he looked deeply affectionately at Wu Sio. Wu Sio immediately understood the intent of Su Xing's confession. She secretly sneered in her heart, and upon her lips, she faintly said, "Lord husband can just take the 1,000 bells immortals due." Your servant naturally thinks of Lord husband. Su Xing was dumbfounded, for he had never thought that Wu Sio would refer to him as Lord husband. He looked apologetically at Holy Mother Qixia. Since choosing anyone would be hard to avoid benefiting the other's shadow, your servant can only reluctantly decline. Holy Mother Qixia slightly smiled, her tone gentle. Your Majesty and your wife are deeply in love with each other, sure enough. Whatever I do, I would actually consider it somewhat dissatisfactory. I feel very much like a kindred spirit of your wife. I wonder if your wife would be willing to become sisters with me, so this rainbow light glass jade can be treated as a gift for little sister? Su Xing wildly perspired. Although he knew Holy Mother Qixia had intentions of enticement, he did not expect she would raise the idea of becoming sworn sisters with Wu Sio. How could the Grand Harem star pilgrim Wu Song ever recognize her as elder sister? My wife's natural disposition is aloof. Other than your servant, she is not willing to speak to anyone. Su Xing helplessly said. Holy Mother Qixia waved her hand, unconcerned about this. I also do not speak often. In the future, little sister and her husband can come to Mount Danxia often to stretch their legs. Su Xing looked at Wu Sio. Seeing she was very indifferent, he stepped forward and cupped his fist. Then your servant thanks the Holy Mother on wife's behalf. Family need not address me as Holy Mother. No need to be shy, it will do to address me as elder sister Su Qiong. 5. Holy Mother Qixia smiled sweetly. Su Xing thanks sister Su Qiong. Su Xing had no choice but to concede that the Holy Mother Qixia before him and the Supervoid cultivator in the legends were, sure enough, not too similar. Afterwards, Su Qiong and the two intimately chatted the daily life of the family, with quite the concern for the bedroom affairs of Wu Sio and Su Xing. This made Su Xing somewhat embarrassed, for the discourse even asked Su Xing about the pressures of having such a beautiful wife and so on. She even specially gave Wu Sio a rare book used by dual cultivators for sex, Fine Lady's Essence Gathering. 6. And Wu Sio put on a masterful performance, expressionlessly actually accepted. Which made Su Xing's glasses fall askew. Finally, Holy Mother Qixia Su Qiong invited Su Xing and Wu Sio to rest the night in Red Cloud's Hall. Having just received such a great favor as the rainbow light glass jade, Su Xing was hard-pressed to decline such kindness. Walking upon the corridor, Su Xing could not help but be excited. He never thought that he could surprisingly manage to get the extremely rare 1,000 bells immortals due for the evil smiting hall of the Vermilion Bird territory, which could be considered an enormous gain. Take it? Wu Sio waved her hand, displeased. The rainbow light glass jade and that fine lady's essence gathering flew into Su Xing's hands. Wu Sio had not interest whatsoever in these two items. This rainbow light glass jade was gifted to you? Su Xing looked at her. It is useless in your servant's hands. Do you not have little sister Tang Lianxin? It so happens that you can take it for her to use. Wu Sio suddenly thought of something. She extended her hand to take the fine lady essence gathering secret text. Su Xing promptly shielded it. This shameless action made Wu Sio's mouth twitch several times. This thing had best be given to your servant to destroy. The book is one of this continent's most precious legacies, and you unexpectedly want to destroy it? Each book has recorded into it the links of Liangshan continent civilization, and each link is like the star duels, a generation's hard work. You believe that you are destroying a single book, but in reality, you are destroying one link of Liangshan continent civilization. this sort of hackles-raising matter, can you really do this, waifu? Su Xing began to babble. Wu Xiao's brows rose. She coldly said, "Your servant knows you have a tongue like a reed. Your servant may not be able to speak over you, but should you dare to do anything obscene to Yingmei, your servant will not let you off." "Does a kiss count as obscene?" Su Xing chuckled. Wu Xiao pursed her lips, her expression ferocious as if she wanted to devour him. "All right, wife. I was never one to force my women." Su Xing's hand was placed on Wu Xiao's shoulder, their appearance intimate. Wu Xiao shook her shoulder, flinging aside that hand. The harm star certainly could not be that casually taken advantage of as the solitary star. "You truly are a person of unfathomable mystery. Why do you call out such a fabricated address so smoothly?" "I'm the one that's strange. Just now, didn't you address me as Lord Husband? Didn't we agree on hubby? Since others believe we are husband and wife, what does it matter what we address each other as?" In the end, the result was still the same. Wu Xiao's words made Su Xing rather amazed. The harm star's natural and unrestrained conduct was beyond expectation, and neither did she care about these elaborate details. Sure enough, she proved herself to be Liangshan's pilgrim. The more Su Xing looked at Wu Xiao, the more he liked her. This still was the first time that he had the urge to sign a contract. "So you really want to become enemies with Yingmei? Your servant truly does not have the heart for this," Su Xing said regretfully. Wu Xiao had an "I know what you want to say" expression. "Your servant will not become enemies with Yingmei, but do not think that you can sign a contract with your servant. That honestly is still rather self-contradictory," Su Xing said. Wu Xiao was silent, but her eyes suddenly had an indescribable frustration. If she truly was his wife, Su Xing really wanted to hug her in a loving embrace. It was a pity that if he were to actually do this, the joy of his lower body would probably be sheared by Wu Xiao. Just during the time that Su Xing was having regrets, he suddenly saw several people walk over. His expression changed, and he leaned to the side, pushing the somewhat absent-minded Wu Xiao onto a bed. "What are you doing?" Wu Xiao's pupils stared blankly, releasing an icy chill. "They're enemies," Su Xing said in a low voice, his face covering itself in the sea of Wu Xiao's fine, black hair. Wu Xiao grit her teeth. She suddenly glimpsed the people approaching, and restraining her heart's impulses, she could only allow Su Xing to press against her body. She felt that her chest had been tightly pushed down upon, giving her a stifling feeling. The ones approaching were Chu He and a distinguished and elegant man wearing a purple gold crown. The two glanced at them, somewhat puzzled, but they did not pay that much mind as they walked directly to the hall. Only when they disappeared did Su Xing exhale. He retreated several steps, for before Wu Xiao killed him, he gave an earnest explanation. "That girl just now is named Chu He, and she is a star master. You know her?" Wu Xiao's fury instantly was eliminated in astonishment. "And still remember when I was chased by Great Sage Falling Sky?" Su Xing then summarized the events. "Since she is a star master, why would she go to Five Poisons Mountain to die?" Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow. Su Xing guessed. Perhaps something happened at Five Poisons Mountain. The man with her just now is unexpectedly supervoid early stage. It seems he is a cultivator from the Azure Dragon territory that wants to chase me. This was a trap to kill me. Forget it, let's silently observe the others. Su Xing saw that the unexpected supervoid cultivator and Chu He had gone to see Holy Mother Su Qiong. It seemed the time had come for Su Qiong to receive her reward for the continuous invitations and entertainment. Wu Xiao stared pensively at Su Xing. "That elder sister just now truly is a beauty," Chu He praised. "What a pity her man is but galaxy early stage." The man with Chu He was the most high paths envious of the East. He wore his customary absent-minded expression on his face. "I hear the purple thunder monster you wish to chase down is also galaxy early stage?" Chu He blinked. Although he is galaxy early stage and has nevertheless killed several supercluster stage cultivators, he is a star master and naturally cannot be compared. Furthermore, he has the legendary panther head Lin Chong. Envious of the East spoke bluntly. Chu He's eyes were in adoration. To be able to sign Lin Chong, Chu He truly longs to see what the purple thunder monster looks like. I too would like to see. Envious of the East sneered. Entering the hall, Holy Mother Chi Xia sat upright on a throne. How could the warm and gentle attitude she had previously not long ago with elder sister and little brother Su Xing be seen? Her expression was serious. Envious, I have not seen you for a long time. Holy Mother Chi Xia spoke. Su Qiong, you actually are younger and younger. Your cultivation also seems to have progressed very well. Envious of the East nodded his head. There is no need to speak any more rubbish. The matter this time is important. Holy Mother Chi Xia waved her hand, making all the maids withdraw, leaving only Envious of the East and Chu He. And this is only natural. Otherwise, why would we come? Envious of the East nodded and sat on the chair with a flourish of his large sleeves. To what stage have things currently reached? Chu He, you speak? Holy Mother Chi Xia indicated. Chu He saluted, then brought out a jade strip. The array of 5 poisons mountain has already been completely recorded. It only needs to be broken, and then the forbid dance can be broken. Envious of the East took the jade strip. His divine intent swept, and he inwardly nodded. As if nothing had happened, he said, I heard the Rock Demon King's body sustaining an injury is true? Yes. He was wounded by a star general. Chu He nodded. This is indeed a great opportunity. If you still want to hesitate, if you wait until the 10,000-year Gu appears, then the Azure Dragon territory will be in danger. Holy Mother Chi Xia faintly warned. Is Mount Danxian not dangerous as well? Envious of the East laughed. The 10,000-year Gu, Envious of the East naturally knew its power. In the even this sort of Gu was born, it was something that could easily dispatch him. Just how is Lady Snake Scorpion able to refine the 10,000-year Gu? Is it not a poison Gu of myth? Holy Mother Chi Xia guessed. Most probably it coincides with the star duels. With the help of those poisonous scorpions, the Xie twins, the attraction of 2 stars has made all of the bugs even more formidable than before. Drawing support from arrays and the like, Lady Snake Scorpion refining that 10,000-year Gu has been verified. Ever since the Rock Demon King constructed the Jade Alum Palace, I have continuously blockaded 5 poisons mountain. Now, with all kinds of clear signs, this 10,000-year Gu is about to come into being. Have those cultivators been prepared? Envious of the East asked. More than 100 are from the Azure Dragon territory. Their cultivations are at galaxy stage. Not bad. Although their cultivation is commonplace, acting as cannon fodder would still be pretty good. I hear that Forbid Dance on 5 Poisons Mountain is very powerful, not easy to break through. Envious of the East nodded, looking upon the live of an entire crowd of cultivators like crickets and ants. Are they the only ones that will do this? Holy Mother Chi Xia was doubtful. Su Qiong, you still are so kind. Regardless of what this flock of cultivators does, is there a second choice? Envious of the East sipped his fine wine, praising, this stantia rain broth. He makes one linger and forget to go home as expected. Su Qiong kept silent. That purple thunder monster, Su Qiong, have you found him? Envious of the East squinted his eyes into an ice-cold line. Lin Chong was not found. Could he have gone to the Black Turtle territory? Envious of the East stroked his chin. Since that purple thunder monster dares to kill supercluster stage cultivators, it must be that he has backing. Why should you chase to kill him, to be able to sign the Panther Head for the first time in 1,000 years? I see that not provoking him would be better. Su Qiong advised. It is precisely because he can kill supercluster stage cultivators that he must die. Envious of the East coldly grinned. Right? The Vermilion Bird territory has most recently turned up a galaxy early stage cultivator that can contend against the Rock Demon King in speed. Could he be the Purple Thunder Monster? Su Qiong asked. It could not possibly be him. The Purple Thunder Monster should not have this sort of capability. Envious of the East shook his head, not knowing whether it was because of unwillingness to accept that he could compare with the Rock Demon King, or if he subconsciously recognized the Purple Thunder Monster would be so defiant of the natural order. Holy Mother Chi Xia Su Qiong smiled, but she said nothing more. Returning to the hall, the moment Su Xing appeared. Brother Su Xing, what did the Holy Mother invite you for? Fang Xingu worriedly met with Su Xing. He was somewhat anxious and feared his introductions had exposed Su Xing to Holy Mother Chi Xia and gave rise to trouble for Su Xing. Nothing much. Holy Mother Chi Xia Su Xiong hoped to conceal the matter of her purchasing gold, so Su Xing did not speak directly. Seeing Su Xing not speak, Fang Xingu did not persist. As far as the secret rumors of a supervoid cultivator, the less he knew, the better. Most recently, something has apparently occurred in the Vermilion Bird territory. Fang Xingu shifted topics. What major event? Only then did Su Xing find out from Fang Xingu's words that recently, Azure Dragon territory cultivators had been invited to secretly live in the Red Cloud's palace. In addition, the ancestors and everything of the 10 great sects reportedly had entered secluded meditation in the Red Cloud's hall. All of the cultivators could faintly guess that something was not too favorable, discussing in private that they had been brought to confront the Purple Thunder Monster. However, to have this sort of battle formation to handle the Purple Thunder Monster made people feel this was somewhat overkill. Connecting it to the Rock Demon King utilizing giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li in his chase and falling to an injured state, Fang Xingu said, your servant fears it is something to do with Lady Snake Scorpion. She have done something to compel the Azure Dragon territory to feel fear. The Azure Dragon territory's great sex cultivators pretend that Rock Demon King's chase perhaps lured him into a trap that he would sustain injury. Otherwise, there is nothing else about him. Brother Fang actually sees things very clearly. This was all said by your servant's cousin Yanran. Fang Xingu laughed. The Zheng Yanran beside him bit down on nephrite cake, her expression absent-minded, ambiguously saying, the results will naturally become apparent tomorrow, deep night, after the feast dispersed. Under the guidance of maids, Su Xing walked into the room that Su Qiong arranged. Sitting on top of the bed, Su Xing was still thinking of Zheng Yanran's words. Things are somewhat fishy. Wu Xiao grimly began to speak. I feel the same. It seems we can only wait until tomorrow to see. Su Xing nodded. Wu Xiao pursed her lips, staring expressionlessly at Su Xing. Su Xing stared blankly, looked in all directions, and he suddenly understood as his brow erupted in sweat. Could it be that he and Wu Xiao truly needed to sleep in the same bed like a married couple? That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.